content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
What's good, everybody? You know who I am, man. I'm GG. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chasers. Before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all the haters out there, man. I hope y'all doing good, man. Peace out to y'all. And if you haven't already, man, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification so you can stay abreast of what's cracking over here on the Green Gorilla channel. As I always do, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel before I proceed. So shout out to Black Swerve 404, Jeff R, Mrs. K.P. Bailey, Cutting Up with the Jones, Show Me, Ricky Dawson, Raiz Muajid, Michael Ross, Alan Wiley, The Face, Lee Ways, Mantis on Break, and Electrician 480. Big up. Big up to the Life of Commerce, Apex Prowler, Julius Ferguson, True 7360, J. Cleveland Green, J. Bino the Advocate, Herbert Lewis, D. Scott, Marvin Evans, Lotus Eater, Rogus Son, Brotherly Love 215, L. Fry, Timothy Blewett, Jeffrey Speed, and Marvin Battle Jr. Big up. Big up to Mart Holt, John J., The IDP Expressions, Afro Troop TV, Adam Tahuti, BGS Ibmore, Ignatz Mouse, Brian Peace, Papa Dida, Scott Haywood, Black Uhuru Strikes, Dr. Tree 33, Leroy Honeycutt, Broken Blade, and Super Tech. Big up to y'all, man. Big up to 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, K-Ron S, Anthony Davis, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Seventh Coast Dojo, Pulpit 28, Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean 955, Charles Gilmore, Patricia Colley, Greg, Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, and Black Men Being Brutally Honest. Big up. Big up to Cameron 87, Doc LaRock, J. Charles, Mark Swift, Odd Collard, Donna Watts, hiphop.catv, Coach DC, Old Soul Chief, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolis, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, Beware the Revelator, Gold Professor, Aaron Infinite, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalon Jakala, Hostile Adept, WPR1, and I can't forget my brothers in heaven, David Carroll, Forrest Windu, and Kevin Samuels. Big up to all y'all, man. Big up to y'all, man. I appreciate you helping, your support, and helping me keeping this thing going, man. So big up to y'all. But right now, I am about to go from all of this. I'm gonna skip the membership scene, if I can actually get to it. My damn stream deck starts operating properly. There we go. All right, so today, of course, as you know, I brought in a guest, and you already know who he is. He goes by the name of BGS. What's cracking with you, BG?
Hey, Dr. GG, what's up?
What's going on with you, Black Gnostic?
These YouTube streets are hot. For the past
man, you done made them hot, man. I'm like, man, what's going on, man? Why you going back and forth, bro? I'm like, man, BGS done turned into one of these gangsters in LA, man.
He wanted to pull up, man. So you know how it is. One drive-by deserves another.
I hear you, bro, man. Hey, man, gotta do what you gotta do, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. But before I get started, man, I want to give a shout out to Jeff R. Thank you for becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel. Appreciate that. Welcome aboard. Appreciate that. Also, I want to give a shout out to Show Me. Appreciate the super sticker, my brother. Appreciate that. $10 super sticker. And also, I want to give a shout out to Lotus Eater. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, my brother, Lotus Eater. So, and thank you to each and all the people out there in the chat. You know, I ain't gonna say all your names because it would take too much time, but I appreciate you being here to join in on this discussion, which has been a long time coming because BGS, you basically emailed me a while ago and said that you wanted to have a conversation about patriarchy.
Right. Because I think that was coming from I think when you were doing the social contract series, which I still think is some of the most valuable videos on YouTube. I always, when people talk to me, I said refer back to the social contract that Dr. Green Gorilla actually did, because that's fire. That's something that nobody actually talks about, you know, especially in the West, you know, except I guess on the higher levels of postgraduate work where they actually talked about social contract. But it came from, I think Locke actually suggested that mothers should get rights over their children. I do believe that. I think he had hinted at it.
Well, I'm not so exactly certain. I don't want to say something that I don't know. But I can research that.
Yeah, because I remember you going through it, and Locke was talking about the rights of women, well before it actually happened. You know, in the 19th century.
Now, I do know for a fact that John Stuart Mill wrote a treatise called On Women, and he promoted for the rights of women at a time when you know, men were pretty much sexist and chauvinistic in the Western world. And so you know, I know that for a fact, but you know, I have to go back and dig into you know, the bowels and the entrails of Locke in order to determine exactly what he might have said about women, because I don't want to say something in air and saying it, you know. But one thing I do want to do is you know, I want to talk about patriarchy only because I think a lot of guys got it misconstrued and don't really actually know what it is. And of course, you know, women have, especially second wave feminists, they have their own idea about what patriarchy is. They want to smash it, and you know, they want to destroy it. And one of the things they want to do is dismantle. Some of them, the radical feminists, want to dismantle the family because they think that's the source of patriarchy itself. But before doing that, also, I want to make something really clear, and I think it's lost on a lot of people. And I think I might have mentioned this in a show not too long ago. I want to talk about racism to begin with. Okay.
All right.
Now, what I want people to understand is that racism, and I basically also made mention of this in one of Dr. T.S. Johnson's classes as my real self, okay? But ultimately, you know, echoing Tommy Curry, Jim Sedanius, Errol Miller, and a whole bunch of other people, racism is primarily a male form of aggression towards other males.
True.
That's what it is at its core. And I'm not saying that women don't get caught up in it, because they do. There are negative impacts that women have when they're a member of an out group, okay? So I'm not saying that they escape the clutches of racism, but what I am saying is that the most lethal forms of racist aggression are directed towards the men.
Okay? In other words, women aren't the primary targets.
No, and well, there's a reason for that. It's because they don't pose a significant threat to the prevailing patriarchal order.
True.
Okay. Now, another fact to note about patriarchy is that just about every society in the world is patriarchal. Whether you consider that to be good or bad, that's just the way that it is. Okay. It's just the fact of the way humans assemble societies. They're primarily patriarchal. And when we're in particular talking about contemporary nation states.
Right.
Okay. Look throughout the world and tell me which society is matriarchal.
There's only a couple they may refer to. And both of them, I do believe, are on the continent. So
where there's a small enclave of women, but they're not a nation state, right?
No,
you know, I'm talking about a major nation state, like, for example, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Eritrea.
No.
Okay, look in the West. Is France matriarchal?
No.
Is England matriarchal? Is the United States matriarchal? Primarily, no. Now we can talk about whether or not that ought to be the case. I can have a conversation with feminists and have arguments go back and forth about whether this should be the way things are, but it's the way that it is. And one of the reasons that it's this way, and this is my theorizations, my own personal, opinion about the matter, okay? Men are the ones who primarily carve out territory, and they fight in order to gain territory. And when they do so, they develop a hierarchy in order to do it.
Yeah, they do.
And in order to do it in that way, unless it's a dictatorship, men are going to argue back and forth about how it ought to be done. They're going to consult with each other. They're going to sit around at a table and have checks and balances amongst one another, conversations amongst one another, arguments amongst one another on how best to achieve the appropriation of territories or the governance of the territories that they appropriate. Now, I'm not saying that women don't participate in the appropriation of territory. That would also be a misconception because they also contribute to wartime efforts. Okay. Now, they might not be on the front lines with muskets or M16s or M60 submachine guns, but they have always played a role in martiality. They've always served either a support function, a espionage function. I mean, they've always, or a consultation function strategically. They've been there. Okay. So I'm not trying to discount their contribution. I'm not here to right now talk about what ought to be. I'm talking about what is. So I'm explaining things objectively at the current moment. Okay. And shout out to Dar. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And MLR, thank you for your generous support. Let me put this up on the screen, man. I got to give a shout out.
No. You have to, man. Don't sleep on the donate on the support, man. That comes first.
Big up to MLR. Appreciate it again. And big up to Afro Shop. Yeah, donate and share. Support your black male scholars. Ain't that the truth, brother?
Here.
So yeah, give some support if you want to the show. If you enjoy the content, chip in, man, and lend some support. But at any rate, going back to my train of thought, racism is primarily misandric aggression, okay? And what is racism? It's basically relegating a group of persons or a population of people into an inferior category based on either their ethnicity or in contemporary terms, their race from the dominant group, right? It could be based on skin color. It could be based, again, on ethnic differentiations. But the idea is that their basic humanity is called into question, okay? And again, it's important to understand that racism's most lethal effects are directed towards out-group men. And all you have to do is look at the archives of history. You can look at genocide studies, and it'll demonstrate that this is the case. So you can falsify this theory or this claim that I'm making. All you got to do is look at the historical archives and look at genocide studies, and you'll see that this is true, okay? But the funny thing is, today we're taught something different, right? And feminists are mostly responsible for this. They basically argue that out-group women are the most oppressed because they're a member of two classes of oppressed persons, right? So you got a black woman, so she's doubly oppressed, right?
Right.
That's what the theorizing is about. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're a Latino woman, you're doubly oppressed, and if you're a Latino gay woman,
you're triply.
There's a trifactor. You're triply oppressed. If you're a Latino gay woman with a disability, you got a quadruple oppression. Okay.
Oh boy.
No, but I mean,
the qualifying points.
but it's intuitively, it seems true. It does. But when you test these kind of theories with empirical methods of falsification, it shows, it just basically demonstrates that sexism doesn't come close to the lethal and sexual violence that comes from racism. Particularly the kind of racism that's directed towards outgroup men. Now, and this is why Curry is important. Racism is a form of dehumanization that's designed to marginalize and exterminate racialized groups, right?
Yeah.
And the stereotypes and caricatures created by racism are designed, first and foremost, to justify the lethal extermination of male bodies, right? But in the United States, it's primarily black male bodies, right? Because if you look at the historical record, at the top of the chain of, or the penultimate subject is the black male, okay? The lowest of the low, the nadir, the bottom of the bottom, right? And so black men are characterized as savages, a threat to law and order. So legal institutions basically are utilized, right? Whether they're police organizations or institutions, whether they're legal, legislative institutions, whether they're economic institutions, they're often used to either marginalize or surveil or to punish black men.
Yeah, to keep them under control. Yeah.
Now, why do I say this? Why am I even starting here? Well, you got to understand. And before I do that, though, there's one thing I want to do, because I got 3 videos that I want to show. They're not very long. They're no longer than like 2 minutes each. But one of the things I want to demonstrate is that, and you know, like patriarchy by like feminists is predicated upon Marxian heuristics and like a Marxian point of view. Okay, to me, that's just, it's wrong.
Right.
Because the world doesn't work that way. Okay, no, so you take women and you put them into a category of the proletariat. You take men, you place all men into a category of the bourgeoisie, and then you're supposed to have some accurate assessment of what patriarchy actually is. And theoretically, it doesn't make sense. And I want to demonstrate this. I want you to see the kind of arguments that they make and the kind of arguments that can be utilized quickly in order to pose problems for that way of thinking. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show this video by this woman. Okay?
Okay.
And here's her definition of what patriarchy is. Okay? So just peep it.
Patriarchy is a word that scholars, and in particular feminist scholars, use to describe the ways that the world is organized by ideas about gender, and in particular ideas about men and women. Patriarchy says that men should be in charge and women should follow along and do what men want to do. And so there are lots of ways that patriarchy shapes our lives. I think one of the most clear examples of patriarchy is kind of the idea of the family or the idea of the marriage. And so inside the word patriarchy is the Latin root pater, which means father. And in a patriarchal family, the father is at the top of the family structure. So the father's in charge, maybe the mother's up there, but she's kind of following along, and then the kids are down below. And so that kind of structure might get replicated in lots and lots of other institutions. So if the little family, if the single unit of the family is patriarchal with the dad on top and the mom underneath kind of following along, then a patriarchal institution that's not the family would look the same way. So a patriarchal government structure would say the men should lead and the women should follow along. In the late 18th century, when the United States was founded, we had a patriarchal government structure because women couldn't vote. So the men could lead, the men could tell the women what to do, and the women had no voice. They couldn't vote. They had no choice really but to follow along.
Okay, so let me stop there. Okay. I'm going to stop right there. Now, what stood out to you about that?
Well, the biggest thing is when she said the 18th century that women couldn't vote. But the thing is, she leaves out that most men couldn't vote either.
Bam. Hey, BG, you on top of it, BGS, boy.
I have a very good teacher, that has a symbol of a gorilla. So I learned fast.
So look, I want to demonstrate to you like this. That's sophomorish to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it is sophomorish is because it doesn't take a genius to know that men, like most men, did not have the right to vote when the United States was formed.
No.
It doesn't take a genius to see this. So let me show you something else right now. So let me go to another screen really quickly. And hold on. Let me get to where I'm going here. I assume you can see that.
I can see it. It's a little small,
Okay.
but I can see it.
It's small?
Yeah, well, yeah. Go ahead and make it full screen. Make yourself full screen.
All right, that's the best I can do there.
I said make yourself full screen.
Okay, let me do that. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
That should be bigger now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Okay. So here's a U.S. voting rights timeline. 1776. That's when the nation was formulated, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Only people who own land can vote. Declaration of Independence is signed. Right to vote during the colonial and revolutionary periods is restricted to property owners, most of whom are white male Protestants over the age of 21. However, you got to own property. You got to have property, okay? 1787, there is no federal voting standard, and the individual states get to decide who can actually vote, okay? So that's just simple, right? Voting remains in the hands of white male landowners.
Yep.
But this is the most important thing right here. 1789, George Washington is elected president. Only 6% of the population can vote.
Yep. Well, the wealthy.
Only 6% of the population can vote. That leaves 94% of the population unable to vote. Now, if you just say the men had X, Y, and Z rights and the women didn't have any rights and they were subjected to some evil, maniacal, dominating patriarchy that only impacted or affected them, to me, it's delusional, it's sophomorish, and it doesn't delve into the nuances of history. So that's why I don't like it, okay?
Well, really, it's an outright lie, covered in deception, especially coming from a woman that's supposed to be a scholar.
But these people know this. They're not lost on this. It's what you emphasize and what you de-emphasize, right? That becomes a matter of contention, and they do it in order to basically promote a particular kind of narrative, right? The narrative being that women need more. And so because they feel like they lack power, tantamount to that of men, they're pushing for more and more of it. But I guarantee you, going back to what I said initially, because if you look at it, it doesn't matter. Yes, racism is a contemporary form of, I would argue, patriarchal aggression. Okay? That's just my viewpoint on this. Now, you can come in with a different way of thinking about this and challenge me on it. But, in high school, I took a course called Western Man. And when I look at the period of, the Western Europe prior to, the Industrial Revolution and their discovery of the Americas, they were engaged in internecine warfare with one another over ethnic grounds. True. Incessantly. Well, I mean, were they not?
No, true.
So, and the men were the ones who basically were fighting these wars. They wore armor, mail. They fought with swords. Some of them were cavalrymen. Some of them were archers, or whatever the case may be. But my larger point is this: if you're out on a fucking battlefield, conquering territory, or pushing back people so that they can't invade your territory,
right,
you're going to be making executive decisions. You're not going to have your wife bitching and complaining about what she wants and what she desires get in the way of that.
True.
Now, I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying this, but I mean, let's just be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
If you are engaged in a struggle for life and limb, and the preservation or the conquest of a territory, the last thing you're going to desire is to have some woman in your ear bitching and complaining about what she deserves.
Yeah, when she's not putting her life on the line to protect it.
But I'm not saying that there haven't been women who, weren't engaged in military participation. They've, to some degree, many of them have been. Not all of them, but not all men were involved in military operations either.
True.
Okay? But we're talking about a phenomena that is pretty much consistent amongst the human species. Men are the ones primarily who wage war. Now, there have been many examples in history where you have women who fought on the battlefield, Joan of Arc, and, like a Hatshepsut was an Egyptian queen who fashioned herself as a man and engaged in military occupations and battles. So we're not saying that it doesn't happen, but as a rule, generally, it's men who are engaged in this activity. Okay?
Yep.
Now, having said that, if you are out there risking life and limb, you're the one who is acquiring territory.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have first dibs.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
You're going to have first dibs.
Yeah.
And if anybody complains, that's like, okay, look, imagine your daughter saying, Daddy, it's not fair. You're running everything.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have shit if it wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have the territory you have. You wouldn't be able to nest in this environment if it were not for me.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to Roman law.
Now, I think the issue is that we live in a peaceable, well-established, infrastructurally developed nation. And so then is when this, all of the problems between men and women begin to arise.
So Goldilocks, huh?
These are the Goldie. You don't have women pushing for, all of these rights outside of the context of the Goldilocks conditions that we exist in the Western world.
Yeah, the biggest example, and we just saw it, in the last 3 months, is the Ukraine, right? What happened? Right. Where did the women go? They got on trains, planes, and automobiles to get the hell out of Dodge, right? Guess who had to stay and fight?
The men.
The men couldn't get on the trains. No, here's this gun, or here's this pack. You need to go east instead of west. Because you're not allowed on the train.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But let's go through this. Okay, so 1790. Mm-hmm. If you're a citizen, you're white, okay? 1970 naturalization law passed. It explicitly states that only free white immigrants can become citizens. Mm-hmm. So jumping 50 some odd years, 60 years almost, in fact, activists for ending slavery and women's rights joined together. This is when you get the Seneca Falls Convention, you get Frederick Douglass who's supporting them. He attends the event, gives a speech supporting universal voting rights. His speech helps convince the convention to adopt a resolution calling for voting rights for women.
Okay.
So black men have been at the forefront helping to champion women's right to vote.
Right.
From the outset. Okay? Now, I'm pretty sure there was a group of men who were regressive and sexist and were like, well, they don't need the right to vote. What are they doing? I'm pretty sure that happened. I'm pretty sure there was some chauvinism and some contentions amongst black men. Mm-hmm. But I mean, here you have one of the most prominent black men, Frederick Douglass, who is advocating for women to be able to have the right to vote.
Yeah, that's historical. Black men, those black men are historically egalitarian.
Okay. Citizenship granted, but voting denied. You got the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and it ends the Mexican-American War, and it guarantees U.S. citizenship to Mexicans living in the territories conquered by the U.S. But English language requirements and violent intimidation limit their access to voting rights. In other words, you're a citizen, but if you can't speak English, you can't vote. I mean, you know how these people do, man.
Yeah.
There's always another obstacle. There's always another challenge, another stipulation, okay? 1856, voting expanded to all white men. So that took how long? The country was founded in 1776, right? Mm-hmm. It took 80 years almost.
80 years, yeah.
80 years for all men to be able to gain the right to vote. Mm-hmm. Okay? And North Carolina is the last state to remove property ownership as a requirement to vote. It's the last state. So shout out to Brother Neil, Dr. Neil. All right? North Carolina. Movements unite and divide. Two women's rights activists, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, form an organization for white and black women and men dedicated to the goal of universal voting rights. Bullshit. The organization later divides and regroups over disagreements and strategies to gain the vote for women and African Americans. That's where the bullshit comes in. This is where the rift comes in, right, between white women and black men.
Right.
Because black men had, basically, been fighting for the franchise, and white women came and thrust themselves in the middle of it and said, if you give them the right to vote before us, you'll be allowing savages and brutalizers and rapists and, all of these other individuals to be able to have the right to vote before us, your sisters, your daughters. You'll be dividing the race and giving the monkeys preferential treatment above and beyond us, the mothers of your children.
Mothers of your children, exactly.
Okay? So so they snubbed Frederick Douglass, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony, and they played the race card. Okay? So in 1868, this is like the era of Reconstruction, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is passed. Citizenship is defined and granted to former slaves. Voters, however, are explicitly defined as male. Although the amendment forbids states from denying any rights of citizenship, voting regulation is left in the hands of the state. So there again, another obstacle. This is what states' rights is all about. Like a lot of people say it's about some different shit. It's always been about who's going to be able to have the franchise.
Right.
And how much influence, they're going to have over the collective decision making of any particular territory in the U.S. Okay, and we already know what happened. You had Jim Crow get ushered in.
Right.
Okay,
right.
This is when the racial terrorism began, where the Ku Klux Klan propped up and started lynching black men, primarily, and Mexican men, and some black women, but not the largest group by far were black men. Right?
Yep.
Shout out to No Guarantees. Shout out to him, man. That I think somebody else dropped me a hit. I can't tell. It's a lot of people chatting out there. Brother J3 also gave me a chat. He said, thank you, G with the PhD, for this stream. Thank you, BGS, for introducing St. Kevin to the space, who definitely believed in strong families with men leading the households. Forever grateful. Okay.
Ashe.
Peace out to that brother, man. And Shout out to Toya. The lights are free. The discussion is invaluable. Shout out to Toya. I see you out there.
Showing them legs, girl.
Look at BGS, the player he is. And I think I already did this, but Dar, shout out to you as well. Okay. So anyway, 1870, vote cannot be denied because of race explicitly, so other discriminatory tactics are used. We already talked about this, violence and intimidation. 1872, women try to vote. So you get Susan B. Anthony, who's arrested, brought to trial in New York for attempting to vote in the presidential election. At the same time, Ain't I a Woman, Sojourner Truth, a former slave, an advocate for justice and equality, appears at a polling booth in Grand Rapids, Michigan, demanding a ballot, but she's turned away. Okay? So I guess they had like a strategy of some kind. Let's try to vote, girl. Okay? 1876, indigenous people can't vote. The Supreme Court rules that Native Americans are not citizens as defined by the 14th Amendment, and so they can't vote. 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act bars people of Chinese ancestry from naturalizing to become U.S. citizens. 1887, if you assimilate, you get the right to vote. So it grants citizenship to Native Americans who basically give up their tribal affiliations. Okay? 1890, Wyoming admitted to statehood and becomes the first state to legislate voting for women in its constitution. Okay? So Wyoming is one of the first states that allows women to vote. But again, men in this country, on a whole scale fashion, were not allowed to vote until 1856. So yes, women trail behind, but I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to argue, that, all men somehow were able to dominate all women because of the issue of voting. It's not a historically accurate or nuanced argument, because most men do not run things or govern things in the United States of America, man. Most white men don't.
True.
I mean, like, why are we having arguments about what we need to be doing in terms of running shit when most white men don't run shit?
That's true.
Like, I mean, and then you only 6% of the population. You don't have trains, planes, and automobiles. You don't have bombs, tanks, and aircraft. You don't have intelligence like these people have in terms of, like electronics, gadgetry, and shit like that. What do you expect to do? I'm just asking the question. Like, a lot of guys keep talking about what we need to be doing. In particular, I'm talking about Willie Pete, but not him necessarily by himself. Right. And I don't mean no disrespect to the guy, but it's like, what the fuck do you expect? You're 6% of the population. 6%.
Yeah, with none of the resources.
With none of the resources that basically, now a lot of people would say that this is predicated upon your lack of ability to push forward and John Henry your way through this. But my look, I said it before, I'll say it again. If you want to fight a war, you can fight it either softly or hardly. Okay? Mm-hmm. But what is your objective and what is your goal? Mm-hmm. What is it that you're seeking to achieve? And what is motivating you to fight the war in the beginning? Now, I'll say this. I'm going to go out. A lot of brothers ain't going to like this shit.
Okay, say it anyway.
The black manosphere is pussy-centric, man.
You know what? I can't disagree with you, unfortunately. That's where we're.
It's too many conversations about women and what the fuck they want and what men got to do to get them to respect them, man.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It's too many.
It is.
Too many conversations around women this, women that, women do this, women do that, women, and women. Like, who gives a fuck, bro?
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing niggas talk about women incessantly, man. Yeah. Like, I can't, like, why do they respect you? Why don't they respect you? What did he do to get respect? What did they do to get respect? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, and I told my partner this the other day. I said, look here, man. If you ever, like any man that's ever been in a relationship with any woman at all, okay? There's never going to be complete submission at all, any fucking way.
True.
You'll never get that.
Yeah.
In your life, bro. Now, a woman might put on or let on like she'll do so, but that's some bullshit. There's nobody in this world who's going to follow your orders and submit to your rule exactly. No. It don't happen in the military, where it's a law that says you got to do the shit.
Yep.
It doesn't happen with the law in the society in which you live. It don't happen with your own children.
No, it does not. who you
If
feed.
you got some, I know they disobey.
Yeah.
You tell them to do one thing, the motherfuckers will do something else.
Yeah.
And they're the most vulnerable people on the planet. And you could say, oh, it's predicated upon their naivety. But there's nobody, even people who respect you will disagree with you and do something different from what you're doing because they're a different fucking person.
Yeah.
They got different desires. They have a different upbringing than you. You're not them. You weren't encultured exactly the way that they were. Now, you might have some similarities, but you're not them. And let me just say this. I told my partner also, I said, look, have you ever sat on the toilet and tried to take a shit and couldn't? If you can't trust what your own ass is telling you, how can you trust what somebody else is going to do?
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
I'm just saying, like, okay, so let me just say this. At one particular point in time, and we're going to cover this, okay? I don't want to get too deep off into it. But if your wife has to come to you in order to sign a contract, to start a checking or a savings account, to get a loan, then you're in control because the structure of society is placing you in control.
Right.
But if that's moved away, what is going to get you to control another individual, man?
Nothing.
Other than an ethos that dictates that you should do that.
Right. Right.
There's nothing. But we live in a country, for the most part, that says that every individual can develop a life plan and do whatever the fuck they want to do.
That's
in
true.
pursuit of their own happiness, their own freedom, and liberty. Or whatever. Liberty, justice for all. Life, liberty, and property. So how can you make another person do what it is that you desire for them to do?
No, you can't make them do it.
You cannot make them do it. Now you can, like Keep It 100 says, an agreement. You can develop a contract and agreement amongst yourselves to do it. But as soon as that motherfucker says, I don't want to do this, I'm done with the agreement. And if marriage is easy to dissolve, then women are going to dissolve them. It's just that simple. If they get access to the children and can dissolve the relationship, they have the cards in their hand. That's why I said, go back and look at the videos where I said they have the ring of Gyges. And I was making an allusion to Plato's Republic, and in particular the allegory whereby you had this shepherd who was running around and he fell into a chasm and then he found a ring that made him invisible. What would you do if you could render yourself invisible? You utilize that shit in order to make your life better, wouldn't you? You'd probably break all kind of rules and laws because you'd be above them. Nobody would know what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
It's the classical egoistic versus altruism argument. Like what will people do versus what they ought to do. Okay? So all I'm saying is, if you have an advantage, people will use it. Like Dr. Johnson has been saying this shit forever. This is why I care more about policy than the quality of your relationships. Because if the circumstances don't give rise to checks and balances in the context of a relationship, if they have advantages over you, they will utilize them.
They will. Yeah.
Anybody would do that.
It's human nature.
And it just so happens that they have advantages and they know it.
Yeah.
And so they utilize them. And it's not just something happening to black. That's another important thing people need to understand. This shit ain't just happening to black men. It's not. This shit is happening to a large swath of men. However, here's the point.
Mm-hmm.
When white men got a cold, your ass got COVID-19. When they have a cold, you have COVID-19. While they're using Kleenex and taking and rubbing Vicks on their chest, your ass is on a goddamn respirator. Now, I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying this, but this is just the way the society is structured. Now, you can try to resist against it, but we have to be realistic in what we're talking about. And this is not defeatism, because if you don't even know the conditions on the ground, and if all you have are pep talks, Horatio Alger stories, and, bootstrapism in order to propel us forward, that's like going to war and running in front of a fucking 1,000 guns, man, being trained at you, and you thinking you can just run on the fucking battlefield and win the war.
They're trying to go up against a tank with a 22.
You seen the movies where you got some stupid ass private who just rushes out on the battlefield trying to demonstrate an act of bravery, and then he gets cut down like a fucking lawnmower. It's not intelligent. It makes no sense. It's not strategic. Okay? And it's not indicative of any kind of moral. That's what, in an Aristotelian moral system, a virtue ethical system, that would be called rashness. So you got excesses and deficiencies, and then you have the golden mean. So if you don't want to fight at all, that's cowardly. But if you are willing to fight and demonstrate your bravery by being rash, that's an excess of courage. That's still a viciousness. It's still a vice. Okay? So at the end of the day, man, let me get through this because it's leading to something else, okay? Indigenous people, of course, can't vote. The Chinese Exclusion Act bars people of Chinese ancestry from naturalizing to become U.S. citizens, okay? And I've been through this. So Wyoming admitted to statehood and becomes the first state to legislate voting for women, okay? But it wasn't until the 1920s that women got the right to vote in general, okay? So this is the landmark moment. Now it can't be lost on black folks that we didn't have the right to vote until the Voting Rights Act, without threat and violence and intimidation being utilized, and literacy tests, grandfather clauses, and all kind of other shit.
Right.
We didn't have the right to vote until the fucking mid-60s. Without being threatened to, get hung from a tree. Men or women. Now, we're not talking about that brief 14-year period during Reconstruction where black men set up little towns and, started to get their shit together, and all the white folks did was came and destroyed the towns. Because you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't defend the territory, they'll take the shit from you anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
I mean, it's been demonstrated that this will happen. You got historical archives that show what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. You got a burgeoning town. White people see from afar, look at the Negras, what they're putting together there. They think they're going to be able to hold on to that. Mm-hmm. And what happened? They went right on in and took it. And black people tried to defend it, but goddamn it, when you got shotguns and fucking revolvers and they got airplanes and they bombing your ass, what are you gonna do, bro?
You're gonna die. That's what's gonna happen to you.
The Black Panthers, man, had a paramilitary organization and they were armed to the teeth, bro. Mm-hmm. They kept the gun, looking out the blinds like Malcolm X. Did they not? I mean, they went everywhere with pistols and guns, man. Mm-hmm. And guess what happened? Them boys ran up on them, man, with a task force, kicked in the door, and killed damn near everybody in the house.
Yep. And then passed a law saying that you couldn't carry it anymore.
And I try to tell people, bro, you can't John Henry your way out of this, man. Only because the numbers aren't there. You can't Shaka Zulu your way through this. Mm-hmm. You can't Wakanda your way, Black Panther your way through this. Because they have more resources. Now, you can talk about how can we acquire resources, but if you do so, you better do so covertly. You better do so clandestinely. But even then, there's a problem. And I want to talk about this first because, if you want to talk about patriarchy, one of the reasons black men keep bumping their heads is because they don't really actually understand what it is. And why am I saying all this? Because you can either look at patriarchy, how second wave feminists do, like that woman there in that video, or you can perceive patriarchy, right, as a kinship covenant system in which older and powerful men develop fraternal bonds to stymie threats from other men. That's patriarchy, bro. So let me repeat this so that you can understand it. Now, you can either perceive patriarchy like Marxists do, right? You say, okay, well, women are the proletariat, men are the bourgeoisie. You can do a Manichaean move, and that's like basically a polar move, and you create these poles. You create a dichotomy, right? And you say, okay, well, men bad, woman good. Men unjust, women just. Men oppressors, women oppressed.
Yeah, well, that was like, and that kind of dichotomy, it would be like saying that your parents are oppressing their children.
Well, I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't use that analogy. And the only reason I wouldn't, the only reason I wouldn't is because I don't want to infantilize women. Okay. But here's what I would say, and I want people to think about this. And I've said this before. Think about the nuances of history. If you want to create a Manichaean dualism and say, okay, women are oppressed, men are oppressors. Imagine a black male slave being perceived as having more privilege than a white female fucking slave owner. And they own slaves. Imagine a slave having more privilege than Susan B. Anthony or Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
That's true.
It doesn't make sense. The taxonomic system is flawed.
Yeah.
Okay? But scholars like Curry, but before him, you have Errol Miller, but before him, you have Max Weber. Okay? He's one of the architects of the field of sociology. Go look up Max Weber. It's spelled Weber, like W-E-B-R, but it's German, so that's how they say the name. Okay, Max Weber, Max Weber. That's what his name is. Okay. Ultimately, they argue that patriarchy, more accurately, is a kinship covenant system in which older and powerful men who fight for things, who establish value in things, right, develop fraternal bonds to stymie threats from other men. Now, when patriarchy is perceived this way, the development of patriarchy by white feminists from the second wave seems less accurate, and it holds less explanatory power than what they say it does. Okay? Now, it's no strange secret that white men and the women who followed them and supported them through their raping, their pillaging, their plundering, colonizing, slaving, exploiting, marginalizing, manipulating, it brought about the conditions that we are now in. This is a fact now. But the problem between men and women is not just something happening in the black community. It's not.
No.
And for some reason, a lot of guys, in this space particularly, because we have a racial component conjoined to what we go through, we would like to imagine that like all of them are just doing hunky-dory and shit. Like it's just been like roses and like it's just been like a gigantic dream for them. It's not. They're not being respected like they were. But I mean, don't let divestiture conversation make you think that like all white women are fawning over all the husbands that they have. And like, when they walk in the door, the dinner's ready and the slippers are waiting for them and all that. Because just look what just happened to Johnny Depp.
Oh, man. Had his career ruined.
Just look at what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we talk about Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, but you have an example of a woman who's like, I can manipulate the system in order to get what I want.
Right.
Whether even if I have the capacity to make money of my own, which she does, because she's an actress, she's able to make money. She's well known. She was just in like the Aquaman movie or some shit like that, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
So this woman is not destitute. She's famous, but she's utilized feminism in order to gain advantages for herself and to have the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons why, I refer to this woman I'm about to play now is because I think that she's, telling it like it is. Now, this woman is a feminist, okay? And she's a transgender woman, okay?
Okay.
But she's telling it like it is. And so her name is Camille Paglia. I'm gonna play the clip. And
is she transgender for real?
Yeah, she's transgender.
Okay.
I mean, but not like the transgenders of today.
Okay.
See, the transgenders of today, she's a transgender in terms of being androgynous. Okay.
All right.
But she doesn't buy into this idea that, let's take prepubescent children, block them from reaching it. Let's cut off their penises and, assign vaginas and stuff like. She thinks it's crazy. Okay, in her mind, like, I mean, not in every case, but like the mania surrounding it contemporarily, she thinks is a mistake, especially for young children.
Yeah.
Because this stuff is irreversible.
Yeah.
And then, like another thing that she laments about is the fact that we don't have like a biology studies component to women in gender studies. Like, how you gonna study gender, but you're not studying biology at all?
Because you would ruin the narrative if you did.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Well,
So
it does make sense. It will kill the whole argument if you mix biology into it. Then a lot of behaviors wouldn't be performative, as they would like to say. It would be determinative by your biology. So it would actually ruin their argument. That's like they don't use it. I wouldn't if I was them either.
Well, hey, look, I understand it. But, Foucaultian philosophy should not be the pretext for all of our politics. Like, Foucault is cool to some degree, but I mean, for crying out loud, this is why I have a problem with philosophy being the only instrument or the only discipline to refer to in order to support our politics. And I'm a philosopher, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, the way you do it, your philosophy is grounded in real life. It's not all theory. There has to be a real life component to actually solidify and verify your arguments. A lot of these people, they don't have a grounded, verifiable thing in the real world to actually verify their thoughts or their conclusions.
They're not naturalists.
They're not naturalists, yeah.
I believe that you have to utilize naturalism in order to proceed philosophically. Otherwise, you're being regressive to me. And look, I don't mind ideals. Mm-hmm. I don't mind philosophizing. But I think philosophy has to be reined in and tempered by, falsification and history and sociology and biology and chemistry and like you can't just do one way of thinking. I'm an interdisciplinary naturalist. Okay, that's just my philosophical orientation. That's just what I am. Okay, I think that all the idealizing and moralizing is getting us nowhere because it's not grounded in reality.
Exactly.
Okay? But that's just my viewpoint. Okay? Thank you for the donation to Haitian. He says, if men in the U.S. just picked up one day and didn't show up for work, women would understand. And look, Camille Paglia says the same thing, but in a different way. Yeah.
Okay.
She says the same thing in a different way. But so let me play the first clip, okay, to demonstrate. So look, first of all, let me just say this. Mm-hmm. Black people in the United States make up 12% to 14% of the population, okay? Now, I don't know if you ever been in a fight at all. Fighting one motherfucker is hard enough, okay? But you're going to have to fight. If you're going to fight everybody in the United States, it's 1 against 9. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been in a fight with 2 motherfuckers at the same time?
Yeah, I got jumped by 5 or 6, so yeah.
I have too, and it didn't go well.
It didn't go well at all.
I mean, I walked away from it. I wasn't killed.
You survived. Yeah.
I survived it, got some licks in,
yeah,
but I didn't win it.
No.
Because I was overpowered. And I couldn't see where everything was coming from. Mm-hmm. You know, I walked away like I was the shit, but I mean, I got my ass whipped. I mean, about 3 or 4 guys jumped on me at the basketball court and started hitting me with court sticks and shit. I mean, what are you gonna do? You can't win that. You can't win that fight.
You take your ass whipping and survive it. That's all you can do.
You survive it. You learn from it. You keep your eyes open. You don't talk shit when you shouldn't be talking shit. I was in the wrong space at the wrong time talking cash shit. Clutch and Stick said he fought 3 motherfuckers once and he won. Well, look.
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, you a badass motherfucker. But if you know you find some guys your size, athletic, just like you are, like look, I was about 12 or 13 years old at the time. Now I've been in the octagon, okay? Like wrapping my fingers up, my hands up, my wrists up, and putting the gloves on and punching. Fighting is not easy, bro. It takes a lot of strength and it saps all of your energy, bro. Okay? I mean, this is just reality, man. Okay? And you talking not only just fighting straight up with a group of other men, you're talking about fighting against the most powerful, technologically advanced military in the fucking world.
That ever has existed on the planet in history.
I mean, like, you can compete, but how are you going to compete? I'm just being, I'm not trying to say be a defeatist, like give up and say, okay, well, we shouldn't try to improve our lot. But understand, man, you behind enemy lines. Like you can say what you want to say, man, about this. You can think differently. Mm-hmm. You're not the big chief fucking kahuna around these parts, bro.
No, you're not.
You're not the big dog around this motherfucker, dog.
Yeah.
No black man is. I don't give a fuck if you Shaq, Kobe, Tiger, whoever the fuck you are, Bill Cosby, O.J. Simpson. You are not the big kahuna in this motherfucker.
Yeah.
The big new Brzezinski is. George Bush is. Donald Trump is. These are the big chief. This is their fucking territory. They engaged in raping, pillaging, and plundering in order to acquisition this area, this land mass.
Yeah, yeah, and keep it afloat because they carry it up. They destroy nations, much less people.
They know counterinsurgency measures and a whole bunch of other shit. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about of entire nations, like they have more military machinery, equipment, and the will to fight than Negroes in the United States who are comfortable because they can go get White Castle, Fat Burgers, some motherfucking Chick-fil-A and go sit and watch a Spider-Man movie or some shit and then lay back and get some pussy or something. I'm not trying to be ignorant by saying this, but this is just real. Like, who here is actually motivated to get into some struggle revolutionary shit and create Blackistan or some shit like that?
And
if you want to use these women's talking points, like, I'm just saying, who's ready to do that?
If you can hold it. If you can hold it.
I'm just saying, man.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't ever. Black men have always resisted in the United States. That's why they tore up the damn, like you said, in the Kerner report. Why did these black men start rioting? These black young teenagers start rioting and tearing up shit.
Yep.
Why did you have slave rebellions?
Mm-hmm.
They happen all over the Americas. But one thing you have to understand about the United States that's different than anywhere else in the Americas. Anywhere else. In Haiti, black people outnumbered white folks like damn near 7-1.
Right.
So when they basically engaged in a rebellion, they were able to actually win it.
Yeah.
Because they had the numbers.
They had the numbers and they had the climate in their favor.
And they had their own culture. Because if you are in an environment where you are the majority population, you can develop cultural practices that white folks can't intervene in the same way that they did in the United States.
Yeah. And plus, white folks, especially back then, Europeans could not survive for very long in that environment. They would die. They would get sick and die. And that's what the Haitians used to do. They would just Napoleon would land a ship with so many thousands of troops, and they would run up in the hills and wait them out for like a month, and they get sick, and then they come down and they kill them. Napoleon
I'm not saying that black men should lay down, open their legs up, and let massa bust it wide open. That's not what I'm talking about, man. I'm telling you to use your common sense. And Dante says, don't we outnumber them? Like, white folks are not the majority throughout the world.
No.
Okay? They're not the majority population throughout the entirety of the world. This is one of the reasons why I think BGS keeps making a reference to the fact that, like, white folks don't really run shit all as nations competing against one another.
Right.
And they do that, okay? I understand that. But in these here United States,
oh yeah, it's home
name for me one fucking man who's going to give up his power because somebody else made a moral argument. I'm saying. First of all, like, man, Kwame Ture told you a long time ago, these people have no morals in relation to power. These people will go to war if they feel they can win it. They will try to control a third world country and put in their people and have the CIA run it. Mm-hmm. So you gonna challenge the people who run the CIA? I'm just saying, from their territory, in their house. And I'm just saying, like, look, I'm not saying it's impossible. You know, like the Spartans fighting the fucking Persians, it's possible.
Yeah, but the Spartans had home court advantage, though.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So all I'm saying is, don't be so hard on yourself, man. Like, I mean, look, yes, black men need to be kicked up a notch. Mm-hmm. Because racism primarily is anti-misandric aggression. That's what it is primarily. Mm-hmm. War is primarily anti-misandric aggression. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay? Patriarchy, at its core, is a kinship bonding.
Yeah.
A covenant system.
Yeah,
where older and more powerful men develop fraternal bonds to stymie threats from other men.
Yep.
Now, if you want to actually get into a science on how you can lift yourself up, it shouldn't be because you want a woman to fucking respect you. That's all I'm saying. It shouldn't be because you're trying to get a woman to respect you. And I hear too much of this kind of conversation about guys having a rough time with these chicks out here. The way you combat that is with policy. That's the only way you're going to be able to combat this. You can engage in 1,000 million, billion, gazillion fucking conversations with these chicks, man. Mm-hmm. If they have an advantage, they're going to use it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand this. It doesn't make any fucking sense to be engaged in endless, ceaseless conversations about what you need to do in order to make a woman happy. Like in the video where the woman said, like, the family, I'm the head of the family. Mm-hmm. The woman is like underneath me, and then come the children. Mm-hmm. I told you. BGS, I told you a long time ago, bro. I said, before England enacted the Custody of Infants Act in 1839, men received full custody of children in divorce cases.
Exactly. Their property.
So men, right today, we think that things have always been the way that they are now because we, first of all, don't study history. Mm-hmm. We don't study the law. But we just talk about cultural values and norms that we don't even know the fucking genesis of. Mm-hmm. And even if we know the genesis of them, we expect look, one thing about the world is a precarious place. It's dynamic. It's not static.
Right.
Values and norms are changing. Different people from different cultures have different norms and values. It's called cultural relativism. It just is what it is. Go look up ethical relativism. I told you guys about this shit a long time ago, but you don't listen to me. Y'all want to continuously talk about women and shit. It's like, damn. If it's that tight, man, go buy some, bro.
You know what? I say that, but
if it's that serious, man,
yeah,
go buy some, bro. Like Kevin Samuels says, go get you a fucking escort, bro.
Yeah. Take care of the problem.
If it's that serious, if you're that, like, because I guarantee you, the white dudes that initially came over here to take over this motherfucker, some of them might have had families or whatever the case may be, but them dudes wasn't listening to their wives, trying to get their wives to respect them and their family, their mamas and their aunties and sisters to respect them and shit like that. They didn't give a fuck. They were like, I want money, resources and land and power. Now you can go out there and try to get it, but you got to be careful about where you're trying to go out there and get it. And money, like, we all know the resources are the issue. Like you and Willie Pete was arguing in the video. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to stay out of that shit, but I just want guys to understand. First of all, I'm not in the space to help you with your relationship. I care about what happens when it dissolves. Because it's all good when it starts. It's all gravy when it starts. Mm-hmm. You into the groove, you stroking like Clarence, what's the name of that dude? Clarence something?
Clarence Carter, yeah.
Clarence, you stroking to the east. It's all good then, you making faces. Making faces. It's all good then. But what happens when you got a kid? She start tripping. Yeah. She saying you ain't high value enough. Yeah. And then all of a sudden she want to roll out. That's what I'm worried about.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm worried. I'm worried about them having a ring of Gyges.
Let me ask you this, Doc. Patriarchy as it's defined, okay, when is the point where it's not a patriarchy anymore?
In my viewpoint, I think it's not a patriarchy after the Custody of Infants Act.
Okay, I agree.
Because if men were the primary caretakers of children and not women, mm-hmm. And if this act enabled women to petition the court like men do now, mm-hmm. to maintain custody of the children mm-hmm. until the age of 7, basically white men gave away the patriarchy. They start chipping away at the patriarchy themselves because basically they listened to women cry mm-hmm. and they were like, oh, well, yeah, here you go, baby. They got rid of it themselves. The precedent has already been set. Mm-hmm. Now in Rome, like the woman was right when she talked about patriarchy being derived from the word pater, which means father. Okay. Now, pater is a Latin word. So when you start Roman, law was in family structure was definitely patriarchal.
Mm-hmm.
And children, they had something called patria potestas.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to what your father said. If you were a son, you do what your father says. If you don't do what your father says, he could kill you and you will not go to jail. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you violate your father, he could kill you, and the Roman law will uphold it.
His father's word was law.
But this ain't wrong.
Mm-mm.
Now you had something akin to patriarchy in the Western world for quite a bit of time, because basically the Germans, man, were a group of savages who basically fell in love with Rome and the power and the prestige associated with that ancient culture. So they adopted what the Romans, had adopted from Greece. I mean, they basically were Roman idolizers. That's where the word romantic comes from.
Okay.
Like a lot of people don't know that. Romantic, look at the word. The root of it is Roman. You understand what I'm saying? So the whole idea of being fascinated, with Rome is where we derive this idea from. Like, so the Germans romanticized Rome and empire and law and the way that and bureaucracies and things like this. And so they adopted their religion, because what was the official religion of Rome after Constantine was Christianity. Mm-hmm. I mean, it took a while for this process to take place because they wanted to maintain their pagan ways. Mm-hmm. But eventually they let them go. Okay? And they adopted Roman law. And then they turned it into common law. Mm-hmm. And we still have a common law tradition in the United States.
Right.
Okay? I mean, that's like if you study law, any lawyer will tell you we operate under the common law tradition developed in medieval or like, like the Europe and the fucking medieval middle era, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So to me, that's the beginning. I mean, nothing happens all at once. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you want to pinpoint an exact date, I can't really establish that now.
But that's where the process started in 1839.
As far as I'm concerned. Now, these women will say that patriarchy is still in existence because they don't get paid as much as men do, because the wage gap still exists. Mm-hmm. Or because, men are still arrogant and chauvinistic and whatever the case may be, right?
And they don't have 50-50 representation in halls of power, according to them.
But just imagine this. Mm-hmm. Like, people don't understand this. And women definitely don't understand it because they live in a peaceable time. This is a Pax Americana, so to speak. It really is not, but because America is engaged in military operations 24/7, okay? Or the defense of territories 24/7. Like we're policing the world.
It would call, that's what they call police action. In other words, it's an enforced peace. Just like it was in, I think it was Foundation, where the road to peace is through force. Basically, the police come in and basically settle disputes, and you get along because I say so. Could that be part of what the Hobbes was calling the Leviathan?
An international Leviathan,
right?
I mean, but it's all about a way of life. See, you had the Cold War, okay? But that shit's still going on.
It is.
You can say it's over. Like, people don't give up their territory easily.
Right.
And humans are hard to kill, man. I mean, they're killable, but I mean, it's hard to get rid of an entire population of persons.
You can't get them all, huh?
It's difficult, man. People are like roaches. It's hard to get rid of a population of people. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I mean, think about think about how many Americans live in the United States. 40 million some odd. How do you kill that large number of people?
Is that what, African Americans?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
How do you get rid of 40 million people? I'm not saying it's not possible, but it would be difficult to do.
It'd be difficult to get around them all. Yeah, basically that's and that's what they were weighing back in 1945 when the number was much smaller.
Now, I mean, like, am I saying that? You got to think black people have not been enculturated into a martial culture at all. We've been enculturated into Christianity. And look, I don't have a problem with it. Like I do understand you and Willie Pete got this shit going on. I'm not taking sides. All I'm saying is, look, black people have not been made military minded at all.
No. Yeah.
We've been made to be go along, get a job. That's how you demonstrate your manliness.
Yeah, we've been disarmed for much of the history of this country. Even today, even in gun states, okay, there's a big difference between a white man having a gun and a black man having a gun. Even when you're permitted to carry a gun. There's a big
Put it this way. The Spartans were enculturated to be militaristic as boys from a very young age. I mean, 6, 7 years old, you don't deal with your mama anymore. That's over with.
That's traditional, yeah.
If you eat, you steal what you eat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like you can take it from one of the other boys and eat it. It's like prison conditions.
Okay.
I mean, this is what they had to experience.
Okay, to harden them.
To get them ready for military action.
Mm-hmm.
We're not prepared for that, man. Guys think that being manly is being respectable and getting a job like a middle-class white guy. Now, I'm not saying that that's not manly. All I'm saying is there's different concepts of what manliness is, different eras in world history and in different geographical locations.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that the culture among Al-Qaeda is not go get a job working at fucking IBM somewhere.
No, it is not.
To them, that's the antithesis of manliness and succumbing to European indoctrination or Western indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings definitely didn't have a concept of put on a suit and a tie and go to work. Fucking 40-hour work week.
No, they were extremely a martial society.
Make $100,000, get a nice haircut. And medicine is derived from military operations. Like, amputation, fixing lacerations and puncture wounds and shit like that. Unfortunately, things go together. It's Janus-faced. Medicine is developed in the context of the elimination of life through war. Mm-hmm. Now, all I'm really trying to say is, man, patriarchy is a group of men bonding together, engaged in developing a territorial strategy. Now, it's difficult for outgroup men to actually be an apex prowler in a situation in which they're outnumbered. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're outsmarted, outwitted at every turn. Because you didn't develop these legal institutions, they did. You didn't develop, their legislatures, their court systems, they did. But the strange thing is, even white boys are hemorrhaging in this culture now. Even white boys are hemorrhaging, man. Because I'll let the white woman say it. Because one thing black men don't do is respect or listen to other black men. They'll listen to a black woman give her fucking $5,000 a day. Mm-hmm. They'll listen to Kevin Samuels, though. He was a unique guy. Yeah, that motherfucker. But only because he had women on his show.
Yeah, and his whole ambiance appeal to women.
If his show wasn't woman-centric and he wasn't talking to women, that shit would have never took off, bruh.
It was, yeah.
I'm just saying, keep it real. Because initially he was talking to men, right?
He was for the first 3, when he actually started doing his first 3.5 years, he was talking to men.
How well did that do him?
He was successful. He was okay, but nowhere near to the point after he started talking to women.
He didn't have 1 million followers, 1.5 million followers.
No, I think he peaked out at 50, talking to men. 50,000.
I respect the brother for what he did and for being himself and being unapologetically himself.
Mm-hmm.
But all I'm saying is, black men don't listen to, other black men.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
I mean, in the space to some degree, but we still like do the best we can to try to demonstrate that we better than them or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. In fact, I had a female mentor in Los Angeles, right? She's been in politics her whole life, and she's a local businesswoman, and she was saying to me about the Supreme about the new spokesperson, this new press secretary for the White House, that's a gay lesbian, right? And she was saying that the reason they're giving women all this power, black women all this power, because they say if they get the black women, the black men will follow. And I couldn't disagree with her. We follow them.
It's take your booty to the pole.
That was not shit, Doc.
Take your booty to the pole. And they had some ratchet looking motherfuckers on there too. And that's what Negroes love.
We love ratchets. Even Black Ram says we love ratchets.
Take your booty to the pole. Some bullet shot wound looking chicks, man. Like they've been,
Hey, Doc, we ain't gonna marry them, but guess what? We love.
What's the name of that movie, man? It's hard out here on a pimp.
Oh, that was Hustle and Flow.
Hustle, the chicks looking like they out of Hustle and Flow. And I'm supposed to follow that to the pole? I mean, look, bro, you got to do what you got to do, man. All I'm saying is, if everything you motivated for in your world is centered around achieving something related to a woman,
yeah.
And one of the prime objectives of any person is to reproduce. That's a biological function.
Right.
It's encoded into who you are as a member of the human species. Reproduce. I mean, they call that natural law. If you want to know what natural law is, I mean, that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Prime objective, sex, food, defense. Food, clothing, shelter, and sex. Reproduction.
Yeah. Survival and reproduction.
So, I mean, but I want you to hear how white men are hemorrhaging as well. Because this ain't, but the thing is, if white boys got colds, black boys got COVID-19.
Right.
Listen to what the white woman, because y'all ain't going to believe me. Y'all listen to a woman when they say it. White, black, red, brown, whatever. As long as they talking, y'all listen to them.
We have to do an experiment one day, Doc. See who black men believe most: a white woman or a black woman or a black man.
Man, you already know the question. They'll believe the black woman, I think, more.
Okay.
That's my guess. And it ain't even an educated guess. It's just a guess based off experience. Okay. They listen to the black woman first, white woman second, and then listen to the Negro lad. Nigga ain't about to do that. What you talking about? You talking that old bumble up look.
It depends who the white man is. They might listen to him third, huh?
Man, they'll listen to the white man. Because we idolize, a lot of us idolize white guys.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I don't think they happy either. These guys, man, think about how much pressure these guys have placed on themselves for basically no reason.
Yeah.
Because all black men ask to be treated like human beings and to have access to the same kind of resources that they have, and it just be treated fairly. Like if there's a FHA loan policy or a program, let us get access to it.
You know, the FHA loan program was basically designed for black men, right? Because black people could not get loans. So in 1968, after the Kerner Commission, President Johnson signed into law the FHA program. That's where it comes from. So the FHA is actually a civil rights program. Believe it or
That's
not.
another group of people coming in to take advantage of what black people blazed the trail for. And it's
Gucci boots, man, Gucci boots.
It's always either the Gucci boots or the Gucci suits. It's either the Gucci boots or the suits.
Yeah,
because I mean, everybody is able. Look, people are conniving, man.
Mm-hmm.
They'll utilize any advantage that they have to basically have benefits matriculate their way.
You know, it wouldn't hurt so much if our women didn't help facilitate it.
But all women are doing this shit.
Yeah, that's true.
And but the hurt that comes from black women doing it is they're up close and personal with how we getting treated.
Yeah.
And this ain't got nothing to do with respect as much as it has to do with justice for me.
Justice in business, really, if you're just business minded, right? Why would you let the white woman take something out of your man's pockets and then take it over to her man? She's not bringing it over to you. She's not sharing it with you. She's taking it back home to her man. So you allow the white man to rob your man and then complain that there's no resources. Which I
read the other day. I read a report that demonstrated that it doesn't matter if you're a black boy from a wealthy family with the same conditions as a white family, you're still on a downward trend.
You are. And,
this is empirical data, man.
Yeah. You know who said that first? It was actually Clark and Moynihan. They said black boys escape, even in the middle class, upper middle class, they escape for one generation only.
And you got to think, and the wealth gap is not between women and women.
No.
The wealth gap is between white men and black men.
Yes.
But if you understand what patriarchy is, you'll understand why it's actually occurring. Now, patriarchy to you is probably, not you specifically, but I'm talking about to the guys out there, is being able to check your wife for some shit.
Right.
That's a white feminist second wave idea about patriarchy. And I don't buy it. I don't think it corroborates with empirical data or the historical archive. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And again, like I said before, you will never, ever be in a situation where you're going to 100% agree with anybody, especially a woman. If you've been in a relationship with anyone, I don't care if they're the nicest, docile woman ever, they're going to have their disagreements as well.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, I don't want to do that. I told you I don't want to do that. Now, either you could be an asshole and always want to have it your way, or you could be like, okay, well, maybe I'll take into consideration what it is you're talking about, and we can move this way. Otherwise, you're a dictator. And nobody, I mean, if that's the kind of lifestyle you want to prove that you're bigger, because you could just run your wife or whatever, or your girlfriend, that's like, I guess, like Coming to America or some shit. I mean, you know, what do you want, Eddie? All right, whatever you like. Your own children won't follow and obey every rule that you give. So I'd expect a woman to do so, especially when they got like the court system, family court system at their fingertips, and the entire culture is becoming gynocentric.
Yeah, they basically took control of the women and children and handed them over to the state.
Peep the game, man. I'm about to play the white woman I said I was going to play 30 minutes ago.
Well, we came here to see the doctor teach, man. We didn't, white woman is just a side show. We came here to see Dr. GG spit, man. That's what they're all here for.
Peep the game,
we got 368 in the building. We need to get at least 300 likes, please, and share the video. This is going to be a classic, okay?
Man, share the video, man. Subscribe to the channel. Make a small donation, man, if you like the content.
Yeah,
join the channel, man. Subscribe, like, share, become a member, whatever. But here, peep the game, man.
Okay, well, the name of my new book is Free Women, Free Men, because I'm demanding for an end to the war against men that has been going on in second wave feminism now for so many decades. I am really a product of first wave feminism because I became interested in the 1960s before Betty Friedan even wrote her book about the feminine mystique. I became very interested in Amelia Earhart and Katharine Hepburn and all these women of the 1920s and 30s who were animated by the great acquisition of the vote for women in both Britain and the United States. Those women of that generation included Dorothy Parker, Dorothy Thompson, and Morrow Lindbergh, so many of them, did not denigrate men in calling for women's rights. They demanded simply equal opportunity for women to achieve at the same level as what men had done in each career. Right. They admired what men had done. I admired what men have done. Okay? If people cannot look at history and see how men created civilization from, as I say in the book, from the Mesopotamian irrigation projects and the pyramids, down through the great, art form and so on. What are we doing? The real toxins, okay, are in feminist theory that poisons young women's minds against men. Many problems that women endure are not due to men; it's due to systemic problems. For most of human history, we were in the agrarian era when there was a natural division of labor and there was a world of women and a world of men. Right? So we are still trying to sort out what's happened since the Industrial Revolution made it possible for women now to support themselves through jobs, to get jobs outside of the home, no longer to be dependent, wonderfully, on father, husband, brother, okay, for sustenance. Right. But the end result in the 20th century is this movement toward, from the manufacturing base, okay, to service sector jobs, now a job requiring much higher levels of education, therefore very long periods in the classroom of college and then postgraduate education. So what we've ended up with is a kind of system that favors women. Women like to work, on the whole. Most women, the overwhelming majority of women, like to work in a safe, clean, quiet, secure environment. Okay, that's why they're very good at office work. Right? With the decline of a manufacturing base, boys have less opportunity to define themselves as men. Okay, to master a craft the way in the agrarian period their fathers had. They learned to be a carpenter. They learned, to work with metals as their fathers had. Right? So there has been a real undermining of the natural basis of male identity in the acquisition of a skill. Right now, the way that the public school system is run, at least in the United States, I can't speak for Britain, okay, but it's an all-female environment. The men who are present in it have already been doctored and neutered, okay? All right, the boys are experiencing public schools as a prison, okay? Everything that is most boy-like, all the natural vitality and energy of boys, all right, is defined as disruptive and disorderly, okay? They are so constrained, okay? It's awful, it's suffocating, and that's why they have escaped into the world of video games. And you mentioned the issue about Hollywood. So true, okay? At the beginning of Hollywood, in the 1920s and 1930s, the actors were drawn in, okay, were discovered because they looked photogenic, who were actually natural men who had worked with their hands. So for example, Clark Gable had worked in the oil fields, okay? You had Robert Mitchum, who was just like, toting lumber, and they said, hey, you could possibly be in front of the camera. Or Gary Cooper, hey, how about you get in front of the camera, et cetera, et cetera. So these were men who understood men because they had a natural density of personality, everything about them. Now, okay, what we have, okay, is our actors, okay, they want to be actors since they're 3 and 4. They're going to be an actor, okay. They go take dance lessons and voice lessons and so on and so forth. They learn how to be men by looking at images on the screen. So what we've got, most of our contemporary actors, all right, are simply third generation removed from Marlon Brando, okay, all right. They're still doing Marlon Brando. It's all false. It's all phony. They have the density of parakeets, okay. The actors today. So I absolutely agree with you, okay, is that where can young men look, okay, for role models today? There's no place to look. Okay.
And that's one of the things that was in the report let me make you my size. So one of the things in the report that I recently read about like black boys and how black boys are hemorrhaging, it basically was like, you know, in school, these boys, man, like are being ground into sausage, man. And that's the Prussian school system. That's what it's for. But it's even more female centric now. You can't, like, if you're a boy in a public school system, you got to be quiet. You got to sit still. You can't move around. You know, if you do, it's perceived as a problem. And we already know that when it comes to black boys, man, these teachers, especially these white women, they're sending these boys to fucking the prison pipeline, man, or they're sending them to the pill line, making them take ADHD drugs in order to make them be quiet and to sit still and to follow orders and to be, you know, compliant. They're killing male energy. But it ain't just black boys, it's all boys. But if white boys got a cold, black boys got COVID-19. And that's the issue. BGS, you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. Yeah, they knew this back in 1912. In fact, like I said, I always refer to this book called The Boy Problem. She actually refers to a series of Atlantic magazine articles, right, saying exactly that the Prussian school system, because it was female dominated back then, that the boys were actually dropping out of school and they felt like it was a prison. So they had to realign the curriculum to actually fit boys, to get white boys, especially white boys, in school. The reason that you have sports in school is for boys, because boys would drop out of school and form gangs, which are basically hunting parties, which is a biological thing that boys have, right? So the reason you have all these sports teams and different kinds of sports is to keep boys interested and keep them interested in school. That's how come you have but not only sports, but you also have crafts and trades and training to keep boys in school. So they centered the whole curriculum around boys. They actually reversed the whole thing. And then in 1972, after Title IX, guess what they did? They handed the whole school system back over to the women. So over the last 50 years, what are you getting? Increasingly feminized women, feminized boys. They take all the crafts out of the school. They force boys to take home economics, believe it or not. And because they say boys have to be able to cook and take care of a house and take care of kids, which is a feminized role. So it's not an intentional. So this is the product that we're getting. So what she's saying is 100% correct.
And look, I don't care who say it. If it's truth, it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The reality is the system is basically designed to basically accelerate women on the fast track so they can work and perform service jobs.
Right.
That's just the reality. Like all the pioneer expansion, manliness that used to exist in the United States, that shit is gone. There's nowhere to expand. Where you going to expand? The suburbs? I mean, it's the West was won. They took it from the Mexicans.
Well,
literally.
That's why they expanded it. You know, where's the next expansion, right? It's not physical space. It's what? Virtual space. It's the metaverse. And that's like boys are retreating into what? Video games, being online, all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's the next pioneer, the next frontier for them.
Yeah,
That's
but
it ain't
it ain't a real frontier. It's a virtual frontier. And not to say that, you can't. I mean, human beings are a funny lot, but there's no real risk to life and limb in the metaverse.
No, there isn't.
So, if you want to get metaphysical, because some people talk about metaphysics as if, it's a stupid undertaking. Mm-hmm. But, the human mind is not easily able to differentiate between a virtual kind of reality and an objective reality. Mm-hmm. And so, it'll be interesting to see, the kind of cultural changes that will result or ensue from the development of the metaverse.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the rise of what we call, the black pill of the incels. Okay. And I had to find out where it comes from. That comes from them looking on the dating apps on their phone to tell them where they stand. If I'm not getting any likes or swipes, that means I'm not worthy. I can't get a date. I can't find a woman because my phone tells me that I can't.
And you and I both grew up in an era where, like, I remember the first cell phone I ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
So, I remember, like, they had these shit called Palm Pilots.
Oh, remember?
Where,
Yeah, I had one.
I thought I was the dopest nigga in the club by being
You
able to
were.
get a girl, what I'm saying? Write your number on this, baby. I'll holler at you a little bit later. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucking woman like, who is this motherfucker? Pulling out some shit that's glowing in the dark and shit. I can write my number on this motherfucker. And then they came connected to cell phones and shit.
Yeah.
So you could put like a slot in one and you could use it with your cell phone, use it as a cell phone. I thought I was the flyest motherfucker in the world, man. And I remember when VCRs first came out. Like, I remember when the phone didn't have call waiting and all that shit. Like, but it's a new era now. Like, I can't, like, I don't know what kind of pressure these guys are dealing with.
Uh-huh.
But, hey, man, look. I ain't never been the flyest motherfucker ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I felt like I was pretty fly for a young guy. You know what I mean? Like I could.
You said you I think it was you and Heidegger said that change in a society causes anxiety, and if it changes too rapidly, it's called basically it's even more anxiety. So I think that's what's happening in the society amongst men and women. It's changing so fast they can't keep up. So what does it produce? Anxiety. Yeah. And you said would you say the worst thing in the population is anxiety, right?
Or anomie, like not knowing what it is that they ought to be doing, no direction, no resolve, no focal practices, no and
you're gonna have to speak on that one day. Do a separate video on that about.
But I already did it.
Did you?
I talked about Heidegger. I even showed part of this movie, The Being in the World. I even gave, guys access to it, but it wasn't talking about strags and shit like that. It wasn't denouncing or having a conversation about women. And so therefore, I
remember you doing it on Heidegger. What I'm saying is, specifically how what you call anonymity, the not knowing is really, in this particular environment is really causing problems. Something specific.
Because look, people are chasing what they perceive to be success, or they want access to what they perceive to be successful. It's all about imagery, and I don't have a problem with image. I mean, you need to have a good image. You need to somehow be able to project excellence. But the question is, how is that done? And it's different in different eras. Think about the cowboy aesthetic and how different it is from the contemporary, 9-to-5 corporate aesthetic. It's a different aesthetic. I mean, even you go to different geographical locations in different parts of the world. If it's rural, they dress and they act a certain way, and success is expressed in a different way.
Right, it is.
I mean, even in the hood, success is expressed in a different way. But all I can tell you is, man, material appropriation is not the summum bonum of a well-lived life. It seems like it is. I mean, if you don't have money, you're going to have a hard time.
Right.
All right. But having money in and of itself is not going to make sure that you have a well-lived life.
Yeah, there's a ceiling to it. And I think it was the guy that wrote Your Money, Your Life, Joe Dominguez. He said there's a cap to it. After a certain amount of money, it doesn't increase your happiness.
It's called the law of diminishing returns.
Right, law of diminishing returns, exactly.
Because it's like, what would he say? You can only drive one car at a time. So if you got 20 of them, like, who cares? You can have 1,000 pair of pants, 1,000 sneakers, 1,000 watches. You can wear more than one watch at a time, but I mean... Like, I mean, like you can have a Rolex on one arm and then an Omega on the other one or whatever. I mean, but like, okay, so what? After but it's not the money itself, it's what the money can get you, or what it gives you access to that people are really worried about. But then the question becomes, if that's all it is, then those people don't really fuck with you for real anyway. They only fuck with you because you got a resource. And people know the difference between people who genuinely have a genuine bond versus a superficial fake bond. We already know that. Like, and that, if you want to talk about philosophy, Aristotle says, okay, there's 3 types of friendship. You got a friendship based on pleasure, one based on, reciprocal exchange or like a business kind of model, and then you have one based on like true love. Okay, the pleasure, as soon as the pleasure's gone, the relationship dissolves. If it's based on business, the relationship dissolves as soon as you can't do something for the other person. Okay, like if it's a business relationship and your business fails, then you can't do anything for the partner anymore, then the relationship dissolves. But true friendship inheres in a relationship where the other person wants to see the best in you and you want to see the best in them. That's true friendship, right? And unfortunately, that shit is hard to come by. Not everybody is your friend. Not everybody wants to see you succeed. Right. And when you are doing well, they feel like they're doing well as well because they're proud of you for having done well.
Right. That's
okay.
Right.
Now, I don't know, like a lot of black men like have a lot of distaste with black women doing well. I say go for it. But don't fucking try to rub that shit in my nose and say I'm magical when you know that the system right now is set up. Again, racism primarily is a form of misandric aggression.
Yeah, and
anti-misandric aggression.
And I think what I think black men are saying is, okay, if the money is coming through you and you're doing well, okay, how does that help the whole community, especially your offspring and especially your boys? If you're doing well, should your boys do better? And thereby black men, by association.
And so this is a symptom that was created by these white women.
Okay.
These white feminists, because they had like fucking separate communes and shit. I mean, I don't know if you know the history of that, but like they had the women's communes.
Yeah.
Where they fucking left their husbands, their sons, and they went to these communes and lived as lesbians and all kind of shit. But white women left it alone.
Yeah.
They retreated from it. They said this shit is just as fucked up as dealing with men.
Worse. Yeah.
So they abandoned it. And now here we got the same kind of, all I'm saying is man, look, don't interpolate the worst part of white radical feminist politics into black feminist politics and think you're doing something revolutionary.
Right.
Or doing something that's really actually promoting justice. It's just a bunch of fuckery. But I mean, I can understand it because, like Marcus would say, Marcus Aurelius, keep it 100. People are egoistic. Okay? Now, should they be that way? Well, whatever. Okay, but the wealth gap in the United States really actually is not a female-female phenomenon. The wealth gap is basically grounded in anti-misandric aggression being directed towards outgroup men, in this case, and in particular, black men. And then you saw the shit start in the 1800s with Frederick Douglass and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. And then the coalition with Sojourner Truth and all this shit. I know for a fact, man, if you take a feminist class at a university at the graduate level, you will be exposed to black feminism, even by a white professor. They'll start talking about black feminism. Really? And they'll talk about Sojourner Truth first, and they'll, start reading Aren't I a Woman? It starts with that and their coalition. And a lot of black women, they ride with that. But at the end of the day, man, black folks ain't gonna never do well if black men ain't doing well. It ain't gonna happen.
No. Man, that's one thing white women understand is that they can't do well unless their white men do well.
It ain't gonna happen. So, I mean, all this magical shit, y'all can keep promoting that until the cows come home. But, I mean, what kind of magic is it if the magic only ends with you? It doesn't extend to your son, your father, your husband, your brother. What kind of magic is that? It ain't got nothing to do with respect. I'm tired of people like. Anyway, let me play the last clip from Camille Paglia.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the last clip from her, and then we're gonna proceed and finish this conversation out. Let me make the screen bigger so people can see it. Okay, here's the last clip.
My own philosophy, and this is why I'm such a dissident feminist, is that sex differences are based in biology, okay, and that the erasure of biology from the women's studies and now gender studies curriculum, okay, has produced an entire army of propagandists, of feminist thinkers whose views have been adopted by bureaucrats in governments and on campuses everywhere. Okay, so you have it's like a massive system of control that's going on. And an obstruction to free thought and free speech that I find extremely serious. Now, I'm speaking from what I regard as a transgender position. I don't think of myself as man or woman, okay? And my position sort of between the genders is the entire basis, I think, of my analysis. But they have a term like rape culture, okay, being repeated over and over again, okay, a term of such utter nonsense. Anyone who believes that there is a rape culture on campus, okay, is guilty of the most hysterical kind of thinking. We're dealing with hallucinations. It's a return by secularists, okay, to a notion of hellfire. Men have absolutely been demonized in a way that makes no sense, because when you go to the elite campuses in the United States, you see boys who've been so processed, who are desperate to please women. And the more men try to please women, the more men follow the agenda that women have set for themselves, the less women want them, okay? So women everywhere are unhappy. They're so unhappy. They're unhappy. They're unhappy. Why? Okay, because there are no men anywhere near. The men have been incinerated, okay, in the area around them. Okay, all right. Well, a big theme of my writing, and it's repeated again and again in my new book, okay, is that I find absolutely intolerable the invisibility to bourgeois women academics, okay, of the men who are making the infrastructure around them work. All of the hardest, dirtiest, okay, most thankless work is everywhere in the world is still being done by men, okay? It's the construction projects, when there's a storm and all the electric wires are down. I don't see any women out there doing it. It's the men out there who are doing it. It's the men who are setting the windows in the great towers, who are risking. There's something like a 92, the number of deaths, okay, on work sites around the world, something like 92% of them are men, okay, because it's men who take on those jobs. I just saw a few months ago, I was like driving in the suburbs where I live. I saw there was a huge sewage spill coming from a broken pipe. There were people in hazmat suits, hazard suits, okay, going out there and cleaning this up. Did I see any women there? No, okay, it's men who do this, right? And how stoical men are, okay, and men take this abuse and have been taking it for decade after decade after decade. It's time for a return to the Robert Bly type of men's movement. The men's movement that was still quite vital in the early 90s has completely disappeared, and the women have taken over.
So there you see it, man. Mm-hmm. We're talking about bureaucracy. We're talking about academia. We're talking about government. And that woman's name is Camille Paglia. I'll put it in the chat. I put it in lowercase letters because I'm, trying to do a damn show here. But her name is Camille Paglia. And she is a feminist, but feminist is not a homogeneous area of inquiry. It's not, okay? But I think where she stops is at the equality of opportunity. That's where she stops, okay? Like, like this women's supremacy and women are better and women are, more nurturing and caring and loving and all this kind of shit. I don't think she would necessarily, she might agree with it, but, but the whole point about, at some point, the feminist movement took a turn and it became about bashing men. Mm-hmm. And I think black women have become susceptible to that same kind of mentality.
Yeah, suppressing men.
So it's not, And the strange shit she said, and it was a brother who just recently put out a what was his name? JH something. Just JH Booth. There it is. Creating the men they don't want.
Oh, yeah.
You actually, like, women are involved in a process of doing what they don't want done.
Mm-hmm.
They want it, but they don't want it. They don't like the effects or the impact of it. And I think she's right about this. Like, if you become a simp, women don't want that shit.
No. They want
They're not attracted to it.
Yeah.
Women are more attracted to abrasive, loudmouth, arrogant, chauvinistic dudes than they are the yes, baby, I'll do it for you. I mean, they are. It's just. But hey, man, I don't know, man. I think what she basically has been saying is the educational system is grounding boys down at the sausage and turning them into feminized men.
Yes, that was the whole point. That was the whole point. That was the whole point by after the civil rights struggles and also the anti-war struggles. They wanted to neuter men, and the easiest way to neuter men is actually go after the boys first. So that's like even in more than Title IX, they said the feminists actually targeted the K through 12 system first before they did anything, before they actually went to the colleges. So they target the person's school system.
So again, I think that patriarchy is under attack in more ways than one, but not really. Okay. And I'll say this. To outgroup men, patriarchy has always been directed towards their emasculation anyway. Mm-hmm. It's never been the case that, you're supposed to make sure that the outgroup population of men are fully functioning, flourishing, and burgeoning.
Okay.
You don't want that. Okay. Like, you want to neuter them as much as you possibly can. Okay. Because you don't want them to serve as a threat to you and your women. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't want it. Okay.
So what are we involved in now, especially in the West? Is some form of neo-patriarchy that's not based on the traditional classical patriarchy? So is this still a patriarchy? Like we still have a patriarchal form with egalitarian for women, or what is this? So what kind of age is this?
My suspicion is, here's my suspicion about what's happening objectively. Okay. You got a lot of men who are basically propagandists and are using public relations to demonstrate that they are on the right side of justice, and they're giving, like, take Biden, for instance. I'm going to put certain tokens here or there. Yeah. Now, I'm really running the shit, but, my helper is going to be this, excuse the terminology, this bitch here. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to put her there, and she's capable. She can fulfill this function here, and she thinks ideologically how I want her to think.
Okay. So Joe Biden and his holes over there, huh?
Well, we'll put it this way. Look at the composition of the Congress. It ain't all women yet.
No, not even close.
Look at the military. It ain't all women yet. Think of the CEOs, who run this bitch, and the corporate structure, of most of the major businesses in America. They not all female yet.
No.
And so, and my suspicion is that they never will be. That's just women can tell. Men who are in powerful positions know how to hold on to power. Now, I'm not to say there has always been women in history who stepped up to the plate and who have served in the same roles as men have. Not predominantly, but there have been. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. That was a hard-nosed woman, man.
Yeah. Yep.
She wasn't a punk ass lady, bro.
She was masculine, very masculine.
I mean, the women we talked about, like Hatshepsut and Joan Joan of Arc, or a number of women, who
Was it Catherine the Great? Yeah.
Catherine the Great, Queen Elizabeth, or whatever. Like, I mean, you got women out here who don't play. They can be just as ruthless as men can.
Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Man. Or the one chick, what the Khaleesi or whatever the fuck they call her.
Oh yeah, the Dragon Queen.
I mean, like, women can be as hard and as fucking manipulative and conniving as any dude can. Provided that, it's something that they want and they got a position of power to do it in. The only thing, I'm worried about is that men in this space are preoccupied with access to vagina, man.
We're as Dr. Johnson calls us, concuserves. We're here to serve the gynocracy.
Or I don't even think guys want to serve the gynocracy as much as they still just want to have access to a chick. They want to have women understand them. They want women to really actually like them and to love them.
Yeah, they do. They want to please mama.
And I'm like, man, look, you think Christopher Columbus gave a flying fuck about what some chick in Europe was thinking about him? Like, if your compass within the space is merely about having access to ladies, what the fuck are you thinking, bro?
It's not just access; it's having the men in this space like having their manhood defined by women, by their women.
They want a pat on the back and a stroke on the brow.
Stroke on the brow and a hand job, in between.
Which is nice, but I mean, like, I really don't know what to say, man. Like, look, it ain't about what these chicks talking about, bro. Fuck their approval, man. Like, there's a song, man, written by an artist named Bilal, man, and he wrote a song called "Sometimes."
Okay.
Go check that song out, man. It's not a hip hop song. It's neo soul. That motherfucker dope, man.
Okay.
And listen to what he says in there, man.
Yeah, I know Bilal. I haven't heard that one. But yeah.
Sometimes, man.
Okay.
It's a dope ass song, man. And he's talking to a woman. You know what I'm saying? But he's talking beyond women at the same time. And it's the lyrics are uplifting for men to me. You know what I'm saying? And but I think that like, I'm just tired of hearing men incessantly talk about women, man. Like, the essence of virtue has nothing to do with women.
No.
I mean, the word virtue in and of itself, I mean, I'm not saying women don't have their own kind of virtues, right? But virtue in and of itself is rooted in the word vir, which means male.
Virile, yeah, male, yeah.
And it really actually comes from war. And I said this before. The Greek word for virtue is arete. And the root for that is Ares.
Okay.
War. And war, how could you definitely in any way derive some sort of virtue from war? Well, it's derived from men coming together and protecting each other's lives. And trying to find a way to get through the grid so that they can become better in some kind of way. Not for the sake of, I want this woman to pat me on the head, because that ain't gonna, if that's your motivation, you got the wrong motivation.
Yeah, it's normally for the respect of other men.
That shit comes later. That shit comes later. So I'm not interested. That's why I'm not a relationship therapist or like a counselor or a game coach. And I said that shit when I first came in here, man. Like, I'm not trying to tell you how to, get access to chicks and shit. Fuck that.
No. That's not your job.
It should be about finishing what we started as a group of people from the 60s, even going back to even the resistance of the slave, revolts and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
How can we get boys to get on the right track?
Yeah.
And to become competitive.
Right.
Not for the sake of women, but for the sake of our own dignity.
Mm-hmm.
The sake of our own humanity, for the sake of our own self-respect.
Mm-hmm.
If she don't want to get down with your program, man, leave that motherfucker where she at.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Negroes got to have a K-Camp mentality. It ain't nothing for me to cut that bitch off. But we don't have it. We're looking for their approval. And it would be nice to have a partner. It would be nice for someone to actually help you through this grid, because that's why I did the show on the Daughters of the Confederacy.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Because them Southern ladies, man, in the Confederate South,
yeah,
them men lost the war, but they knew that they needed those men to pick their face up and to get back to business as usual.
Right.
And they helped them to do that, even though they lost the war.
Yeah. I have never, I don't know, maybe you have, but I've never heard a indigenous or Native American woman talk ill of her men, ever.
Well, I'm pretty sure, you got some that do it.
Yeah,
but they ain't all on the internet talking about them tribal niggas ain't shit.
Right. No. And
the tribal men are arrow bags or some musket bags or some shit like that. Pellet bags. But I mean, anti-black misandry is the deepest form of misandry in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, it is enshrined into the culture. So much so that black men have contempt and hatred for themselves.
Yeah. That's the myth of white manhood. I said the hatred of themselves. Black women actually want to emulate white women, but the thing is, black men, because of the myth of white manhood, attack themselves. They physically, verbally, and mentally attack each other.
There was somebody that tried to come into the stream. My fault. I wasn't paying attention, man.
Okay.
I don't know who it was. Faulkner, come back up, man, if you can, man.
Okay, Charles. Okay.
I don't know who it was. I'm sorry. I just, I blacked out and got into my thing, man, talking about what we talking about. I ain't gonna do this for no more than 20 minutes, but like, again, patriarchy is a kinship covenant bond between powerful men, and they develop fraternal bonds in order to stymie threats from other men.
Yeah, you have to come up with a new phrase or a new term for what we're experiencing now, because, like I said, it's not classical patriarchy as it's defined, but it's something else. And there's places like China, like Korea, like Greece, Singapore, and in the Middle East, right? They still practice what we call classical patriarchy, but in the West, it's something different. So the thing is, we don't have a term for it. So it's not a matriarchy, it's not a patriarchy. So where are we at? Or is it a dying patriarchy that needs to be redefined?
Well, put it this way. I don't think this is ever going to go back.
Okay,
like in terms of like changing laws for women. I mean, it seems like it is with the abortion thing, but they're not going to take these people's voting rights away.
No.
They're not going to take, they might change the laws related to custody, and they might change the family court laws.
Yeah, I just did an article. I just did an article from a video about a 2017 article about 20 states going toward a 50-50 custody law. In other words, they're going to do away with the 10 years doctrine that's still around in common law.
And that's what black men need to be focused on, what they actually can support. What's actually possible. What's not possible is to get these women to pat you on the fucking back, man. Like, either they gonna do it or they not gonna do it based on their individual respect for you. And groveling and crying about the shit ain't gonna really help it. Now, I talk about what's fucked up that women do sometimes, quite often actually. But I just want guys to understand, bro, these motherfuckers got the ring of Gyges.
Yeah.
And look, and I'm telling you right now, I said this shit, I created a public service announcement. and had the siren go off when I was only had the StreamYard icon with the old GG logo.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, you're a potential simp in the making. Simply because of the position that you're in. And what is the position that you're in? The link should let me put the link in the chat. I thought the link was already coming in with the StreamYard. But here's the deal. Luke Skywalker. You more high value than that motherfucker? Dr. Dre. You got motherfucking damn near $1 billion in the bank.
Right.
Happened to him.
Yeah.
Emmitt Smith, motherfucker won a Heisman Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
You Michael Jordan.
Will Smith.
Will Smith. You got more motherfucking money than him? Resources than him? Access than him? I'm just saying. Who else? Lionel Richie. I said he ain't the most masculine guy in the world, but he ain't that motherfucker can sing and got a whole bunch of goddamn fame and notoriety.
Mike Tyson got done in. So.
Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
If it's resources by itself, then why are these motherfuckers right here getting kicked to the curb because she don't like what I don't like it? Mm-hmm. I'm on a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, use your common sense.
Yeah. And before we get started, Marcus, you ain't shit. But go ahead.
I'm just saying, if all of this is based upon your money and your status, and you look, this is what Kevin Samuels should have done. Mm-hmm. You don't want them motherfucking men you say you want. You don't even want them motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. And I think he did say it in his own way.
He did.
I think he did say it in his own way. But these women women nowadays are unhappy in general, man. Nothing pleases them. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue.
Yeah, they are. Remember, I termed them the hungry ghost.
Can't even fucking eat.
They can't. They eat.
The hungry ghost
and can't get full, huh? Yeah,
hungry ghost.
Yeah.
That's almost like the guy who everything he touched turned to gold, and you can't. It's like everything you touch, Midas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Midas.
Everything you touch. And at the end of the day, it's like Dr. Tiasan Johnson did a video, and it was of a woman who was basically like, "What's wrong with the average dude? What the fuck is wrong with the dude? Like, what is wrong with the average man? Every now and then, your ass get to go to a restaurant. Every now and then, you get to take a vacation. Mm-hmm. What is it that these women are preoccupied with? But I think it's the media.
It is the media. It is social media. It's Facebook. They want to,
Instagram.
They want to.
Yeah. Don't leave out Instagram.
Yeah.
The Real Housewives and like that. Them motherfuckers ain't happy.
You know where it started? Right. Really, remember Falcon's Crest and Dynasty back in the 80s?
Mm. Yeah,
that's where all that stuff started.
All My Children.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, no, really, Dynasty, man.
Where Dynasty, where the strands really
with the billionaires and the big ass houses and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that shit ain't gonna make a motherfucker happy.
No.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, you're gonna be fascinated with for a while, and then the fucking fascination gonna wear off. Because a toilet is a fucking toilet, even if it got the shit to splash up and hit you in the ass. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm trying to be the only person here that doesn't crack up at that.
Hey man, you know I'm a clown, man. You know I'm a clown. Yeah, but all I'm saying is,
we know we can't put you and Marcus together, man.
Oh man.
Hey, bro, we go together like a hand in glove, bro. We talk that shit all day long. Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, all I wanted to do is offer an alternative to men in the space to understand patriarchy. And you could talk about patriarchy having something to do with the family, but that's been eroded as well because there was a time where women had to get permission from their husbands in order to go buy a car or to start up a credit card or to get a bank account. That shit don't exist no more, and it ain't coming back, bro. That shit ain't coming back. Now, black women probably never had any of that shit anyway. So, I mean, checking accounts as sharecroppers and shit in the South. Now, I'm not saying all black folks in the South were destitute, because that would be a lie. It would be a misassessment of the truth. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we ain't never been wealthy, though, most of us.
No.
We always made a way out of no way.
Right.
And, the funny thing is, now we got women who got champagne taste but a beer budget. These motherfuckers want to drink Ace of Spades. They ought to be drinking motherfucking Schlitz Malt Liquor Bull. Colt 45, Old English 800.
They're not good enough for Colt 45.
Cisco, Hypnotic. But now they got their own shit. They got Black Girl Magic labels and shit.
The Mogan David 2020.
Big Green, I got a question for you.
Black Girl Magic.
My dog. That my dog is Rude Dog.
What
I done brought the Admiral out. Shit. No, but yeah, go ahead.
Yo, what's
Black
going
Girl
on,
Magic,
man?
more like cheap ass pixie dust when you try to take them out. Like, oh, what happened to all that magic, that bewitched magical shit before? Oh, when the bill come, all the pixie dust is like gone, huh?
No, that's not pixie dust. That's fecal matter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's dry toenails.
Go ahead, Admiral.
Big Green, I got a question, and maybe also to the panel on BGS. With that being said, with everything that's going on, what are the key components do you guys think for young boys to develop, to just sustain their masculinity in this environment moving forward?
Okay, well, what's necessary? What can we do to help them? What's necessary? Basically, and even Monahan said this back in the 60s, they need an all-male environment. The same thing that they said in the Atlantic back in 1912, right? You need a masculine environment for boys, because the Prussian school system, whatever the system produces the people. Okay, so if you want feminized boys, you put a feminized curriculum with feminized people in that classroom. That's what it's going to turn out. It's a factory. Okay, so if you want boys to maintain their masculinity, then you're going to put them in an environment where it's masculine. Some people go as extreme as a military school. Okay,
right.
But I think especially for black boys, I think what should happen is single sex education.
But I think BGS, I don't think these women right now have control of the system, the school system. And you got a lot of men who, I don't think these men are simps for granting women these kind of this access that they have. I just feel like the men who are doing so, it's not impacting them. It's not impacting their lives or their family life or anything. So, I mean, they can send their sons to all-boys school and pay for it. They can enculture their sons the way that they want because they have the ability to do so, because they have the resources to do so.
Right.
But the public educational system is failing boys all across the board, whether they, white boys, Latino boys, black boys, it's failing boys in general. So men are like, fuck this shit. I don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Right, they are, because they don't see themselves. And because traditional societies, indigenous societies, boys and girls do not grow up together, right? After the age of 7, they separate them. And then the men train the men train the boys, and the women train the girls. Their lives don't commingle like that until they get old enough to marry.
Interesting. Okay.
But with this egalitarian society, we believe in put them all together and making them widgets.
Wow.
So, at the end of the day, black boys are the ones that are doing the worst in the black community. We all know it. I did a show on it the other day. If the wealth gap is to ever be closed, it's going to be us to close it. But the problem is the ideological commitment that a lot of these women have to their own ascendancy. And look, white men are not going to allow them to ascend beyond them. Shit ain't going to happen. They ain't going to let white women ascend beyond them.
No.
They're not going to allow it.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason it's happening to us is because we're perceived as a threat. And we've been caricaturized as a threat, as abusive, as savages. I just don't like it when black men do it to each other as well.
Right.
And we start using the same language as the oppressor in order to talk about ourselves. Now, we can enthuse each other into a battle cry or something like that, but you do that by positive reinforcement, not by calling each other bitches and punk ass niggas and pookies and shit. That's not gonna motivate no men into action.
That is female shaming language that we use on each other because that's where we learn it.
That's not gonna motivate men. It ain't gonna motivate boys. You tell a boy you ain't shit, you ain't shit, you ain't shit, you ain't nothing, you ain't shit, you ain't nothing. You a dusty, crusty, musty, fusty, nothing. I mean, what is that gonna do? That's not how boys respond.
Wow.
It ain't how nobody responds.
Right.
That's nobody responds to that. You got to encourage, enthuse, and motivate. But when you talk like that, the first thing is, oh well, you encouraging laziness and indolence and no. First of all, you got to understand the circumstances in which we've existed, what is happening, why it's happening, and then develop a course of treatment.
Exactly. That's logic.
But come on, man. Like just name calling and shit, like, you know, using like the name calling game, man. That's not like and then the guys who are doing this are middle class black guys.
Sometimes soft talk don't work, bro. I mean, I'm gonna jump in here, man. I mean, you know, we talk about Kevin Samuels, right? And the first thing people say about him is he talked too hard. Okay. I said it on my last stream. If men are disregarding the message for its tone, you a bitch. That's how I feel about it. And let me tell you this, right? When we talk about grown men, I'm not putting on kid gloves to deal with grown men. I'm not. I'm just not doing it, right? Now, we just lost a guy who refused to do that with women. Y'all know me. I don't put on kid gloves to talk to adults, period. So, you know, if the name applies, if the shoe fits, wear it. If the name applies, use it. You understand what I'm saying? Understand this. I'm for using tactics when you know is necessary, by any means necessary. You know, if someone responds to certain tones or you know, this, that, and the other, you know, sometimes, you know, you got kids that you can talk to, and sometimes you got kids that you got to whoop their ass. Right. So because they don't respond to nothing else, and humans are the same way. And you know, you meet people with, you know, with the level of you know, shit they need. You understand?
But is there a difference between shaming and correction?
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Harsh tones, and harsh carry is just like a coach yelling at you, right? Okay, he's not being nice, he's not being sympathetic, he's been harsh. But the thing is, he's correcting, he's not shaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
so there's a difference. We have a lot of men in this space that shame without correction.
But understand, I think that more emphasis is being put on how the message is delivered as opposed to the difference between correction and shaming. And I think that, you know, when it comes to, you know, women, they take all correction as, you know, bashing, and this and that and the third. You know, what they do to us is shaming.
Having an attitude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what they respond with is shaming. They're trying to shame us out of correcting them. Even if you look at the female coaches, and you know, I'm gonna let Gigi jump in. Basically, the female coaches are about that touchy-feely stuff, but guess what? It didn't work out for them either. I got 2 daughters, okay, and you can do touchy-feely as long as they accept the correction, right? But sometimes, man, you got to pick up their belt, right?
Because they're not getting it,
right?
They're not getting it.
Well, saying dog,
go ahead.
Well, saying dog, man, I know you came in, you dropped out, and you don't come too often. So, man, what's up, dog? How you doing, man?
What's going on, Team Root, man? What's going on with you?
What's popping, man?
Man, what's good, man? AB Media, BGS, what's good, everybody?
Hey, what's up, Admiral?
Yeah, what's going on? No,
what's up, Captain Jack?
What's going on? What's going on?
Saying dog, before I go, man, I ain't gonna reveal no pearls, but man, you IH, man. you know what I'm talking about. I see that big 8 right there. But anyway, man.
Hey, you dialed the right number. You know what I'm saying? I'm here for it.
Right. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. So no, basically, what my 2 cents was that when you look at the recent discussions that have been happening in the manosphere, it goes back to just what you guys were just finishing talking about before I got on. What happens is that a lot of guys, when you approach our history, you're approaching it from narrative, right? And so you're talking about certain talking points. So you're coming from a perspective as if black men had never did anything, as if black men never fought their way off the plantation, as if black men didn't fight in the Civil War, as if black men did not engage in civil rights or in the constructions of so pretty much like, we made a lot of progress during the Reconstruction era before the North pulled out their troops, right? As if black men did not fight against Jim Crow. And so basically what you're looking at is you're looking at so much of a female narrative you're looking at a female narrative that's more of a keeping up with the Joneses narrative. So the idea that I don't have what they have across the street means that you failed, right? And so for a lot of the rhetoric that many of the guys have, I just have to tell them, again, boo-hoo, right? So for whatever reason, our ancestors decided that they did not want their own state, right? They didn't want their own state. So we are a part of the United States. You just had a film recently that came out that showed you how America would have never made it out of space without the aid of 3 black women, right? Or for the most part, how Martin Luther King, when he was alive, was the most hated man in America and is now up there, in American lore in terms of the founding fathers.
Right.
And so what we have to understand is, and so when you look at it, for example, like women and children are susceptible to marketing. So again, you guys know I always talk in terms of warfare. So in warfare, you have the traditional forms of contact, right? Which are observation, indirect fire, electronic warfare. But then there's also something called the non-traditional. Hello?
Propaganda.
Yeah, correct. Then there are the non-traditional forms of contact where you attack the culture, you attack the economy, you attack these ideologies. And so the thing about it is what our women don't see, or in its entirety, is that when you look at black people in general. So for example, when you turn on TV and it's Africa, for example, right? GG, you know what it was when we were kids, right? What did you see when it came to Africa? Starvation, child soldiers.
Little boy that's always starving. The same little boy always starving.
Correct. Same again. The same little boy that's starving. All of these things are done in order to send out a message. Whereas in Asia, you have had rampant poverty. You have had rampant poverty for centuries. And so for me, I would love to have a conversation with that guy, because I lived in Afghanistan. I lived in the Ethiopian Somalian border. I lived in Iraq. So for me, for the most part, for the majority of my adult life, with the exception of where I'm sitting at now, I've been in third world countries. I lived in countries where the bottom has fallen out of those societies, and you get to see you see what life looks like, and like what BGS was saying earlier. So when I first got into my line of work, again, I had the power and the ability to hire people, and I would call home and I would tell guys, yo, I got this job. It pays this amount of money. And when they found out where it was, they wanted no parts of it. Right? So again, they wanted no parts of it, because again, you are You are an American. You are a citizen. You are a citizen of the first world country. And the mistake that many Americans make is that most Americans believe that the rest of the world is the United States, and it isn't. I will tell you that firsthand. So even amongst developing nations, right? It may look first world in the surface, but the underbelly and how it works is something completely different. So for me, I have certain dealings or whatever in other countries. Man, there are other countries in the world that I deal in, man, that you could still go to jail for debt. You know what I'm saying? It's not a, like I said, again, it's not a civil case, or you don't have the same IP laws, right? Or you don't have the same IP laws or protections that you have, that you have in the United States. And so I think that for a lot of what Black men think about each other, or what we think about ourselves in the community, comes from narrative and not necessarily actual history. And this is something that we have to be careful of. And one of the other things that I would like to bring up is for older, with the exception of BGS, and I'm saying this because it's a matter of fact. It's not a thing of pandering. What happens is that BGS is one of the rare few African American men that could teach history and yet separate their intimate experience with it. So what happens is, remember, the battlefield or the landscape has changed, and we don't educate our children, right? So what happens is that if I hear a Black man who lived through Jim Crow, or 1940s, etc., because he has an intimate connection with that time in history, you're gonna hear his pain, and from a young man who hasn't lived in that landscape, it's gonna sound like complaining. So what may have to happen in the future is that we might have to teach it in terms of issue discussion, recommendation, and moving forward. So for any of us who have ever been in the military or who have played sports, right? History is taught from a perspective of, this is what we did yesterday, this is what happened, this is where we need to go. So the reason why the United States government didn't take a bunch of 75-ton M1 Abrams tanks to Afghanistan is because we learned from the Russians that that's not a good idea. And so what happens is that when you want to look at the things that we've been through, right, in terms of the systematic oppression, okay, if you wanted to look at housing or education, okay, this is what happened, this is what we did, this was the end result, and here's the work that's left that you have to do, right? And so for people who live through it, I can't sit here and deny them the right, to kind of talk to their pain, but we're gonna have to evolve to the point where you use history the way it's used in sports and warfare. So you look at what happened in the past, you look at the ground that you gained, and then you do your after action review, you make your corrections, and then you have a plan going forward in the future. So, BGS was around during the 1920s, right? This is when we got ripped off of housing. They filed a class action suit. This is what happened. So instead of a 13% loan, it's down to 9%. And Sandor, your generation is to get it down to 5%. And I think that what happens is that for us as men, or within our history collectively as a people, maybe, and this is just me spitballing, maybe this is an approach that we would have to take that could perhaps yield a better result, especially for people who haven't lived in that particular landscape or that environment.
For sure. One of the things that I've always said is, Black people have a problem with making second half adjustments, man. So that's another sport analogy. And the terrain is always changing. The conditions of war or a battle or a struggle or a campaign, they're not static. They're dynamic. And so you have to change with the terrain. You have to change with the conditions of the campaign. And unfortunately, because we get caught into moralism and moral intuitionism so often, we don't even make the second half adjustments. Because we think that our course of action ideologically is the right one, just because we feel like the ideology in and of itself should dictate the action. So, it's just, at least somebody from the military can have, or even somebody from business can have a different kind of mindset in relation to what we ought to be doing, but all we do is latch to ideas.
Correct.
And
even not to cut you off, Gigi, but even in the world of business, right? Because again, since I left the military, again, I've been in shipping, I've been in FMCG, I've been in defense contracting, and I've worked with agencies from the State Department, Ministry of Defense of different nations, their embassies and everything else. And so for one, in warfare, you have what's called MET-TC, Mission, Enemy, Time, Terrain. And then the -C is for a civilian consideration. Now, if you want to go into business, we have something called change management, right? And change management is a process that organizations and people go through whenever a business wants to change policy, mission, outlook, and everything else. And one of the key factors in change management, so first you'll put together a change champion. And then a key factor in change management is that you have to get buy-in from people, right? Because outside of your busy life and your everyday work, change is additional work, right? So so instead of 8 hours a day, I might have to put in that 12 hours a day, under this particular change management program, whether we're going to implement a new ERP system or whatever the case might be. And so what happens is that if you look at like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? When these guys, and that's why I say history is important. So when these men fought the civil rights era, or fought during the civil rights era, what they noticed during the Black struggle, ultimately, that there was a problem with the entire machine in and of itself, right? And so again, so quintessential to dealing with the Black plight, you have to deal with the entire machine. Hence what you said in your last videos in terms of now the fight for human rights is not about improving the material well-being of individuals. It's all about, kind of like these different moral stances or everything else. It's not about the improvement of the quality of life of everybody, which ultimately was where the civil rights movement was going. And that in and of itself, to your very point, requires a different language in a different rhetoric. So, and I'm just saying, so from Sanddog's opinion, in today's world, having something like called Black Lives Matter will immediately be divisive, whereas that's not what you want in today's world. That's not how you want to solve problems. So if there are issues with the justice system or things of that nature, you have to respect the fact that I'm going to have to, in a sense, put myself in other people's shoes and put people in my shoes in order for them to understand it, right? So and I'll say this and I'll shut up. For example, a few years back, there was a white man who was arrested for a felony in Florida, and he went and he served his time. And then later, he was charged with another crime, and he was innocent of that crime. And when he went to sue the state of Florida, they said, "Hey, you're a felon, right? Hey, lucky you got out. Tough break. You can't sue us because you're a felon." So now, if you would have had people from the Black community in regards to civil rights come to that man's aid, now that gives you the opportunity to win over people from other communities, right? To win over people from other communities and address the fact that what's known as institutional racism has become
endemic.
Yeah, yes, correct. So what was now institutional racism is now endemic in many of our institutions. So now from an African American perspective, all this stuff about Build Back Better and new infrastructure, because again, so now remember, because what infrastructure comes education, laws, and everything else. So when you're looking at the environment of today's world, right, that's where your fight is. So when you're talking about infrastructure improvements, right, the changing of institutions or the updating or the evolving of institutions, this is how you uproot a lot of the past and correct those types of things, right? And so that's what I'm trying to say. So you're looking at, so from a business perspective, there's change management and game theory. From a military perspective, there's MET-TC and the intelligence preparation of the battlefield, and you have to move with the environment. You can't, you can't, like you said, you can't have the same tactics or the same rhetoric that you had decades ago. And I remember Charles had a panel, and we talked about that, how, you go from combat operations to what's called sweat miso. And so you attack the city is bombed out, the lights and everything are off. And once that's done, you have to fix the sewage, the water, the electricity, the academic institutions, medical, and everything else. You have to get the infrastructure back up again if you want to keep the peace. And so, like I said, so for me, I'm just shutting up. But again, if we talk the history from the perspective in which, again, which BGS puts it, right? And then you take it a step forward and be like, okay, what are our steps after this? And I think that especially for men or black men, as you develop your own body politic, which is being created through the manosphere, I believe that this is the approach that you'd have to take going forward. I'm sorry, GG, I'm quiet.
No,
now.
you good, man. Hey, man, look, thank you for coming by, dog. But look, we got to do a show together, man, so you can speak more, extensively about, your thoughts related to what we should be doing. Because you're a military person, you engage in campaigns, man. You're a business person. I mean, so we need your expertise, man, because you see things from a different kind of perspective, and so we need your influence. Bottom line.
Much respect, saying, dog. I'm a veteran myself, dog.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So like I said, it's the same thing. So when you get, so like for example, like when you look at BGS, and like I said, this is not apparent. This is a matter of fact. Have you ever noticed that whenever BGS comes up and he talks, there's always stats, right? And so again, and those two worlds between the military and business, right? What's real to people are numbers. You'll say again, numbers and outcomes, and you have to make your decisions. You have to make your decisions on that, and the history is what gives those numbers a context, right? So the history is what gives those numbers context. And so, again, and so many of us, and even for me, I've been there, and like I said, I've been there, and I know like a lot of brothers talk out of frustration because you're upset from where we are, what where our position in life is, and you just want to see more happen. But unfortunately, to African Americans, there's a lot of positive in our history that we're not taught because so much of it is narrative. Like I said, again, from my alma mater, my university, right? William Hooper Council founded Alabama A&M University. The man was born a slave, bought his freedom, and built the normal college for Negroes by 1875. 10 years or 10 or 12 years or so after slavery was allegedly made, or so many years after slavery was made illegal. So when you look at these strides and how fast and rapid these things happen, a lot of people forget to remember that racism exists for a reason. One, it's a form of protectionism in order to avoid competition. And from the bigger perspective, is a smokescreen. It's also a smokescreen for a long time. It's been a smokescreen for classism in America.
Yeah,
right?
I believe that, man. But that's why I just wanted to explain initially what racism was, so then we could talk about patriarchy and its connection to racism in the United States, and so the guys can understand that see these women think that patriarchy is just something about men versus women, and that men want to be in control and they want women to be subservient. That's not what patriarchy is at all. I mean, patriarchy is just a group of wealthy ass dudes forming bonds in order to keep hegemony amongst themselves. And I mean, you can't fault them for the shit. I mean, it's the way of the world. So how are you going to respond to it? And you got to do it methodically. It can't just be based on your emotions and your frustration. That's the point. I think the Sand Dog is trying to make. I mean, you got to use tactics. And we don't know tactics because we ain't taught tactics. And that's another thing, man. Men are not teaching other men what they know. If we don't start teaching each other what we know, we going to die, and then a whole group of other motherfucking men got to figure it out again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just like a life just wasted.
Yeah.
Resources wasted.
Yeah. So when you look at women, for example, or when you look at patriarchy, right? So what happens is that you're looking at an industrial or post-industrial problem. So because again, like my wife comes from northern Nigeria. So let's say, for example, you remove all the technology, you remove police departments and everything else. So at the end of the day, here it's 5 o'clock in the morning. So at the end of the day, GG, if this was 10 AD, right, and you and I had to go fishing in the Congo River where there are parasites that could crawl up your pee hole and eat you from the inside out, right, and everything else. Trust me, a lot of women want no parts of that, right? And so you have to remember what human life was before, or the condition of human life in other countries. Like I said, again, people in the Western world, and it also reflects in our foreign policy, people in the Western world tend to believe or have the idea that the rest of the world is or should think or should think the way they do. And that's really and like I said, that's really not the case. And so, you have to look at it from the fact of, again, you take away technology and all the modern conveniences and everything that we have. I think very, very few people want to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to track gazelles before it gets too hot to hunt them, right? So, no, who wants to follow a gazelle for 10 miles, kill it, field dress it, and then drag it back to camp?
Man,
Right.
that
So
shit ain't
these,
good, man. Man, I
yeah,
told people before, man. This is Camp Yum Yum, man. United States
yeah,
is the United States is fucking it's a Shangri-La. And that's the reason why, people you saw the Hunger Games, man.
yeah,
It's like the capital city. This is
yeah.
like, this is the capital city, and everybody elsewhere, has to, fight it out and duke it out for a little bit of attention and some modicum of access. And I just, my viewpoint on all this is, man, we need to stop beating each other up. And we're not going to always agree, but we need to set up some institutions, man, so we can get our agenda on the table. And then we have to learn the art of propaganda, which we don't fully have yet. It's just us, expressing our emotions and ranting and raving and being frustrated. And we need that as well. I mean, every man needs an outlet,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, man, I just want brothers to understand, like, stop worrying about these chicks so goddamn much. Stop paying so much fucking attention to them. They aren't going to change, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
right. I think, yeah, yeah.
hold on. Yeah, somebody's choppy chop.
That's not me.
That's
Yeah.
Pookie Wireless.
That's
Yeah, yeah. So GG, maybe what I'll reach out to you, and maybe what we need to do is probably from Crispus Attucks, up until modern day, have a couple of shows about what the achievements of Black men have been in the United States, right? Because this is something that you rarely hear. And so again, and for you and I, we both share that contact or that connection with Carter G. Woodson,
For
right? And
sure.
so and it's back what Carter G. Woodson said, right? If you get a man used to going through the back door, right? If there's no back door, he'll create one. And so I think that we would have to have additional discussions, right, that show what in history where for the most part Black men have walked through the front door, right, and not to always think that we have to, like I said, that we have to walk through the back door. Because again, if you study the history for the Europeans, enslaving these Africans, whether it was Brazil, Caribbean, or the United States, again, what was not an easy task. And for African Americans, what happened, for one of the reasons why we saw slavery so severe the way that we saw it is because the people in North America heard about what happened in the Caribbean and South America. And so for example, like if you had slavery today, right? If Sandor was a captain in the Doheny Kingdom, right? It's very difficult to enslave that person, because what am I going to do? I'm going to hook up with Charles Faulkner, right? And me and Charles Faulkner are going to organize everybody, and we're going to take heads, and we're going to go from one plantation to the next. Right.
Yeah.
And so what happens is in North America especially, this is why they went through the labors that they did to disassociate you or break you from that culture. And BGS could tell you better than I did. You want to hear about black people in America not having it? Study Carolina. Study the Carolinas.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, exactly. So like I said, so there's so much, so what happens is in our history, there's so much again, look at the word narrative. Narrative and truth are very different things, right? So again, psychological warfare, all these things play a part. And so, and I promise you, I'm shutting up. So again, if you really dig into our history and you study it, man, there is so much positive and also despite the odds. And the biggest thing that BGS says all the time is, show me any place in history where a group of men, especially when they were the minority, changed their condition as quickly as African American men have. You haven't you haven't seen it in history and many other places, man. People have been slaves for millennia. Not centuries. Like I said, again, millennia. And so this is, these are some of the false narratives that we have to break out of. And then also too, when it comes to immigration and when it comes to immigration and everything else, that's cool that some of the people are rich, but again, not, like I said, again, not all of them, right? So especially now for me, like the fact that I have a Nigerian wife, insight into immigration and also through my extended family, right? Because my extended family covers several different nations. And and not everybody who tries to go to the US is super this, you know what I'm saying? Who are super this or super that. That too is also a like I said, a misnomer. So like I said, so no, Gigi, like on God, bro, like I'll reach out to you, and maybe what we can do is we can go through different periods of our history in the United States or in the Americas in general, and you and you could see for a fact that there was a lot accomplished. And for the most part, if not even for the Haitian Revolution, Florida and other parts of the United States wouldn't even exist.
So, yeah.
So put it
I'm
this
quiet.
way. Put it this way. I'm screaming 8. Help me.
Yeah.
Before we go, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny because.
But yeah, go ahead.
Let David go. He hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, GG, for having me on, man. This is an excellent discussion with some super intelligent brothers. And before we go further, I just wanted to invite all of you brothers to help me out. I'm trying to form the Black American Party. You can join us at blackamericanparty.com. And I'm about to put together the Black American Party YouTube channel so that we can discuss this as an organized group of Black heterosexual men who are trying to put the Black American family back in its rightful, respectful place.
For sure. Leave a link so we can, just hit that link and get right to it. You know what I'm saying?
Put a where it says private chat. Put your link there so I can put your link.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, but also, man, you got a powerful ass microphone, boy. That motherfucker coming through like, hey, you got, it's like you got like a super mic over there, like you know,
super gain turned up. You got to turn that gain down.
Hey, bro, boy, you out of sight like a satellite with that mic, boy. I'm just trying to make merry, man. But yeah, that shit.
I'm turning them all down. It's the Samsung G-Track Pro.
I need to get one of them motherfuckers, boy. Shit.
He got the gain up too high, man. It's distorted, man.
Yeah. Hey, bro, no, man. I need to get one of them motherfuckers straight up, no cap.
Check it out.
Is it better now, man? I got it down a little bit.
Yeah, you got to turn that
much
down.
better.
Yeah, I'm just
Thanks,
he had that booming voice on.
My bad.
What's up, GG?
Yeah, go ahead, my brother. Go ahead.
It's kind of funny when Sandog was talking about the accomplishments. See, a lot of times you gotta think in the male mindset where there is no struggle, there can't be any strength. See, a lot of it is like you said earlier about how they just killing masculinity. You're getting a bunch of over emotional males. No direction, no drive, no nothing. It's like the things I'm trying to accomplish, which Sandog and BGS knows about. I'm gonna have to put into fruition very, step by step, day by day. Because a lot of times we look at each other and, like you said, each one should teach one. But we've grown up in a culture where if you see one successful black man, he's the enemy. If you see a successful black man, he's a sellout. There's no possible way he can be great and successful without him conspiring.
Question: where do you think that comes from, in your opinion?
Slavery.
It's more than that too, because it's other things that kind of push that along. I mean, I was listening to Angry Man the other day, and he said something that made a lot of sense to me. He said it's when he's talking about Kevin, and he's talking about even Kobe, because he was like these women will say that they're celebrating the death of Kevin Samuels mainly because of his commentary, when he primarily spoke to women that voluntarily called into him. He said that they celebrated Kobe's death in the same manner. He said they would like you to believe that it was because he married a non-black woman, or that they celebrated Kevin Samuels' death because of his commentary. But it's really not that. It's that they represented black male success, or that was free from them. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
the reason why I said it's from slavery, where do you think they got the mindset?
No, understood. But what I'm saying is what's keeping that alive is what we're dealing with. The fact that we're dealing with this matriarchy that pushes that. Like,
I'm gonna tell you.
We're this many. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you about the matriarchy, okay? Yeah, it's a son bitch, and it's gonna try its best to keep you down. But I'll give you a good example. When I put the comparison meme on my Facebook page, how many black women came out and had to say their piece? But then when I look in their background, they got some pencil neck geek white boy that they dating, and I'm like, well, we're divesting. And she thought she was going to hurt my feelings because she said I'm divesting. We're divesting. I said, shit, really? Let me help you pack.
No, I got you.
You're gonna miss,
bro.
And here's the crazy part.
Go ahead.
There's a reason why you're not taught to work together. Because if you really work together, and you ever notice when you're around successful brothers, you like, what the hell was I doing before this shit? Why do you think a lot of brothers are waking up and saying, you know what, it's time for me to get the hell out of here. It's time for me to go where I'm cherished. I need to be cultivated, and I need to cultivate other young men. And what happens is that when we keep focusing on these females, which, there's going to be talks about women, period, because we're men, straight men. But when you actually focus on male empowerment, just like they focus on female empowerment, look what they're doing, even with the government assistance. If you would have gave us the same shit that they getting for benefits, we would outpace them greatly. Hell, we outpace them now when we got what?
I don't think that's not our problem.
They're not our problem,
well,
because hell, they never were brought here to be our women.
I understand that, but my point is this, right? The reason this thing is, a perpetual thing is because, these women are given access, or we're denied access to, involvement in the way that we are, right? They are raising these younger boys into these simps that we are at odds with. I mean, that's just what it is, right? Right. So, this is what you get with that. So we can be as, progressive as we like. This is what we're going to deal with. It's not even like we're on here. We can talk about white supremacy, but it's not, you know, that's where it comes from. But this is where we've gotten. Like, this is the culture. It's like over the past few days, I've been listening to, you know, BGS go back and forth with Sergeant Willie Pete. All right. And you know, I've left a couple of comments. I mean, this is definitely a cultural thing. It's definitely a cultural thing that Black women have now picked up from white men. Like, this is where we are with it.
They
right?
haven't now got that from white men.
No,
They've been had
now.
it.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
They've been had it.
I'm not alleging. I'm in agreement with you. It's not a new thing, but what I'm saying is, here we are, whatever amount of years later, having this conversation about, you know, Black women. We could talk about white supremacy, but that's another problem. But here we are talking about Black women. I understand that, you know, and I tell GG, you know, all the time, and I tell dudes on the video, I ain't a dating coach. I'm not here to, you know, talk about women and complain about women all the time. I try to speak to dudes about, okay, we know what the issue is. What now?
Yeah, that's where I'm at with the shit. And
yeah.
So the only thing I think is, you know, to be perfectly honest, what now to me is joining, you know, with men's rights activists to do what can be done. Because they already basically have explained what can be done. And we have a demonstrable case to make that this shit is hurting us more than any other demographic. Now, if you really want to solve the issue, we can put these motherfucking conservatives to task and tell them to put your money where your mouth is unless you want to double down on the racist shit. And then show them to be the racists that they are. And then, you know, just keep pushing. But I think, though, the shit is hurting them as well. And if it's hurting them, and if they got the code and they lamenting about it and trying to get to the drugstore and get some goddamn Vicks Vapor Rub, motherfucker, we need the booster shots for this COVID shit. We need a shot in the arm, man. For real. All these damn policies and all this fake ass moral grandstanding and virtue signaling related to Black women doing X, Y, and Z. Cut that bullshit out, man. And put the money where the money's going to actually make a difference. If you say you're really about doing all the justice work you say you are, and then all we got to do is just tell them, look, we know you don't support us. We know you think you're the most oppressed, and we got arguments for that. So if they come and they try to block, we'll just come with the scholarship to tell them, look, your arguments aren't working. Your arguments are regressive. They're not based in falsificationism. All you're doing is just basically moralizing, predicated upon fucking French philosophy, and I'm tired of it.
You talking about the women?
It's funny because
who you
I'm talking about. See, here's the issue. It's two things. The battlefield for us is multiple. It has to be fought in multiple campaigns and areas. Okay, it's not just one thing. That's why I say, like, it's a chessboard, and it ain't using checker pieces. It's a lot of shit happening to us at the same time. First of all, our family lives are fucked up, and that's why I put the link there to the Vox article, which basically demonstrates even if we have intact families and those families are doing well, and you compare that shit to what's going on with white boys, we still falling off. It's still a fucking problem. So some of the shit that we've been talking about, we got to rethink based upon the empirical data that's coming to us. So we are falling off even when we got intact families and we're educated. And even when we are educated and we're doing well, we got fucking depression. So it's a lot of shit going on multiple fronts that we got to deal with. And we got to develop a fucking strategy to deal with it, or else we're going to keep dying early deaths.
Well, I think you're right about that, because we need to stop playing even chess and get the risk. But you got to learn how to play first. And a lot of time it comes from the training. And once we actually start to veer off and make sure we're good, because guys, it's crazy when you use somebody's strategy against them. You know, it's not fun till the rabbit gets the gun.
Well,
be specific. When
this is what I'll say. Look, this is what I'll say, Marcus. You SYSBM, right?
All day.
Now, I haven't read the literature on SYSBM, but this is just an assumption I'm making. The SYSBM primarily the way that it's articulated within the manosphere is fuck these bitches, go out and get your money.
It's a little bit more than that, but that's correct. That's a correct component.
Okay, so, and I'm for that, okay? But what I want to add to it is, let's save ourselves by collectively, developing strategies to where we can put action into place so that we can actually change some of these policies, or at least argue for changing the policies to some degree.
Let me tell you, I have an issue with, let me tell you why. See, and I had this conversation earlier. As soon as you say collectively, right? It's just like trying to form some sort of coalition, like whether it be with black women or white men. You have black men within the space and outside of the space that ain't with it, right? And the reason why I say save yourself is because if black men walk away from the bullshit, you tell them that to be selfish and do that for themselves, it creates a collective movement. When you tell guys, well, get with this group of guys and this and that, you're going to have differences in opinion and strategy and theories, and you're going to have simp motherfuckers in the group, and that shit doesn't work. There's always been this idea that, oh, let's collectively come together and blah, blah, and we're still here talking about it. Because you got guys like an SWP saying what he's saying. And then you know, just like you said, you got too many guys that are here worried about women. By the time somebody, I have a Pookie argument, but it ain't the Pookie argument that most dudes use, which is really about access to vagina. That's not what I'm here for. And I know that's not what you're here for, but it's what a lot of guys are here for. So they're fighting a different war than you. So when you collectivize and whatever, you got to make sure that the guys that you're collecting, joining with are fighting the same enemy, fighting for the same objective that you are. And that's difficult to make.
It's difficult, but it's not impossible. And let me just say this.
Go ahead.
I don't need the entire manosphere. All I need is 100 motherfuckers in the manosphere. And let's just start doing some shit differently than what we've been doing. So if I can get 100 motherfuckers to get down and we decide on one thing, like we can't do it all. I mean, we can do it all because it's a multiple front war that we fighting. But we can't all individually do it all. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's too much to fucking do. But at the end of the day, Marcus, man, it's just an idea. I can't herd the cats. And I just like the brother who put the look what he put up, man. He says, and this is Brian McMurray. He's been a long-time supporter of the Green Gorilla channel. He's a member. Okay. Or you're going to try to do the documentary again, G, with a PhD. The death of Kevin Samuels might have made the environment more suitable for funding it. I tried to herd the cats together to do some shit that I thought would be constructive for the manosphere and that could put a public relations spin on some of the shit that we talking about, right? And I thought it would be a go just based on the strength of the men's commitments in the space. But see, the problem is, it's too much HNIC shit going on. It's too many motherfucking content creators trying to blow up and be, that motherfucker. I don't care about being that motherfucker. All I care about is a change in policy because I know what the policy can do. I know what the policy is doing. It's grinding men and boys who are black and other men into fucking sausage, bro. So the question is, it may fail, but it may succeed. Like we in the frat, we got a poem, see it through. You may fail, but you may conquer, see it through.
I'm one of those people that say, trying to do the same shit and get a different result is insanity, right? You just hit the nail on the head. You got too much HNICs, right? So you got like I've recently been asked, and I don't know if you watched my last stream, I had to check somebody because they came to me asking me, am I on YouTube to hustle the space? Everybody that's been following me on Facebook know I've been talking this shit for 10 years off of YouTube. Okay. And I'm just now getting here. So I wouldn't get blocked every 5 minutes. And now I'm hustling. See, you got guys who, when you try to put something together like that, they think that you trying to get some money from them. They think you trying to hustle them. Like, fuck whatever your time and energy and effort that you putting into advocating for them. They look at you like you hustling. These are the same guys who you think that you are putting yourself on the line for. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I rely on the human nature of selfishness. If I say save yourself, your selfish nature should kick in and agree with that. So then I say, okay, save yourself. And then you got a bunch of guys who collectively do that, and that has its own results.
Well, you know, I
now
get it.
Respond to that. So
I get it.
That's my angle, because when you tell a bunch of guys, you know, who, to be honest, we are in this same environment with Black women and everybody else, where we have also been taught to look at ourselves sideways. So when you say, hey, Black men, come together, we looking at each other with the side eye. We looking at the guys who speak for us with the side eye. All of that shit with the side eye, right? When women do these things, they get support because nobody looks at them with the side eye, because we learn they are morally superior to us. We are the worst. And we think that of each other also.
And that's what I don't like. That's the only thing I don't like.
It's a reality. And to me, a better tactic is to tell guys, save yourself, be selfish, as opposed to, come together. Because at the end of the day, it's like somebody said, if all men took a day off, you get a response, right? That's not a collective thing. We ain't got to come together for that. Is we each separately, selfishly, got to make the same move. If we all walk away if we all walk away from the table at the same time on some strike shit, that's when you'll see a response to that. Like, oh shit, look what the fuck they did. As opposed to, oh, we got to come together and I got to trust this guy and trust that guy, because we don't trust each other, bro. It's sad. It's just real. It's the same way that they look at us crazy, we look at ourselves crazy. That's why I rock with SYSBM, because it's a selfish cause, and it's easier to get a man to be selfish than it is for him to trust other, men in an environment that has taught him not to trust.
Yeah, I got my misgivings about it, but at the same time, I understand the position. I understand the argument, and I know, we've had this conversation not once, not twice, not three, not four, not five. I mean, we had this conversation. It's going to be an ongoing tension ideologically between us, but I still fuck with you, man. Be selfish, nigga.
But we still sitting here in the reality of it, though.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's look, I feel the same way you do, man, about the mistrust. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn. Motherfucker, like this is what fucked me up about it, right? So you got GoFundMe, right?
Right.
It's a fucking legitimate tool to raise funds in order to get shit done. White people use it all the time.
Facts, but they
they fucking use it all the time. So my question is, what is the like, niggas don't want to succeed because they fail. They fear that they may fail to succeed.
Check this out.
Niggas got to fear success.
Or they feel that you might out succeed them.
Bro, women can get on GoFundMe and beg for PPP money back and get supporters.
That's crazy, man. A woman can super glue a fucking weave into her head, and motherfuckers are giving 50,000.
But if you tell niggas, hey man, I'm gonna put together a project to do XYZ or whatever it is that can benefit them. I'm gonna start a school for young boys. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Let's put the funding together. Listen, if any feminist Black woman you name, if Megan Thee Stallion or somebody put together a fundraiser for a school for Black girls, they get the money ASAP. They get the money ASAP. Not just from their demographic, but from Black men.
But you know what that stems back to that stems to what I said earlier.
Absolutely.
And because virtue in war means being able to trust a motherfucker. Am I wrong saying, dog?
This is correct.
Absolutely.
Virtue consists, and in other words, what we have is a lack of virtue among black men, especially in the manosphere. And I hate to say that, but it has to be said because at the end of the day, here's the deal, man. If we in a war, that's the ultimate form of fucking love to me. Like, this motherfucker trying to kill you, I got your back. I'm gonna prevent him from killing you, and we gonna fulfill this objective. That's the essence of virtue. Now, if we lack it, it's because we lack faith in ourselves. And at the end of the this stream is getting to be one of them motherfucking 5-6 hour ones. And I'm not about to do that tonight. It's fucking Friday night, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I love you, bros, even though you might think I don't. I'm not trying to swindle you motherfuckers. Everybody damn near who contributed to that fucking campaign got their fucking money back. You understand what I'm saying? And some people was like, well, don't get the money back. You can take it and do something with it.
Yeah, we're begging you not to take it back.
I gave that shit back because I wasn't about to have a whole bunch of motherfuckers like, GG took our money, man. I ain't got shit to show for it. Like I'm motherfucking Umar Johnson somewhere and motherfuckers trying to find my address so he can get $50 back or something. No, sir.
Hey, G, what did I offer to do with that?
We gonna do it still though. It's just the timing has to be right.
No,
bro.
I know. I want you to say it.
The time we gonna put that shit together. We gonna do it ourselves. You're an industry professional. You got the camera. I just need to be in the position to where I got more subscribers, and I'm gonna feel like we can make an attempt to do it again. Let me tell you what the shit it'll take.
Plural.
Wait a minute. Let me tell you what it'll take. I already got 100 dudes plus who donated money to the motherfucking campaign. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. What it will take is 100 men with $500.
Okay.
1,000 men with $50. Mm-hmm. I mean, or 10,000 men, $5, bro. That's all the shit'll take, bro. 10,000 men with $5. But I know some men are going to donate more than that because some men donated $500. Only about 3 or 4 of them. But I mean, a lot of dudes donated $100.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So if 500 men could give, like $100, that motherfucker's done.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, but I'm not, I haven't been consistent recently. Because I started a music channel, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with the music. I'm about to just make this fucking Green Gorilla channel fucking live all the time. I'm going to take all the live shit I'm doing on the fucking Afrobeat channel and put it on this fucking channel.
Okay.
And so I got subscribers here. If you listen to it, it's going to be monetized off the bat. And when I come in with a live, I'm going to interrupt that one and resume with that after this shit is over with. If you want to listen to it, you can. If you don't fucking have to. You understand what I'm saying? So
what I'm saying, and understand, none of this that I'm saying is meant to discourage anything. Just understand that it's not you. It's a bigger issue. There are names of black men that we all know that either have created documentaries or other things that they've tried to get people involved in, and there's been the same resistance or the same mistrust or those types of issues. I mean, Tariq being a notable person.
Yeah,
with his yeah, exactly. So like, understand, like this ain't about you or your inability to do XYZ or you ain't going hard enough or this, that, and the third. It has nothing to do with you per se or your effort or your subscriber base or none of that shit, bro. What I'm saying is also affecting people with larger audiences, been around longer. You know what I'm saying? Even Kevin to a degree, like, they hated him. Like most of the things that you see about Kevin is, oh, he made himself rich doing blah, blah, blah. Right? There's this idea, like we hate to see black men profit from their efforts.
That shit need to change. So if you one of them hating ass niggas, if you one of them hating ass niggas They can't stand to see black men doing well. We are fucking dead.
I tell everybody I do not believe in poor righteous teachers. I don't believe in it.
And that's what I mean, you know, I'm not a big fan of Polite, but when he spoke on it, I had to give him the nod because he addressed it and he was absolutely correct. One more thing I'll say, and this is sidebar, right? And this is for the interest of time. I'm gonna save all of my commentary on the BGS versus SWP shit for tomorrow.
That's why BGS said you ain't shit, nigga.
Yeah, well, he ain't shit, boy. Well, you know, that's what the doctor said when he came out, man.
Right.
So this little nigga ain't
I rock with you, boy. You a motherfucker, boy.
I'm gonna save it for tomorrow.
You know what? I didn't think that this response with SWP would even garner this kind of attention, man. I really didn't.
Listen, it's a thing. It's actually because when I go on, I address current events, and it's on the current events list.
Oh, okay,
right?
All right.
Yeah,
Hey, you know what? You know, I'm popping my collar right now. I made Marcus's list, so they got to do something.
It's on the current events list.
Look, I'm gonna go around the horn, man. I'm gonna go around this hoop, man, and y'all can make some comments, and then we're gonna be up out this thing, man. I got some chicken to eat.
If I make it up to with Brittany Renner, man, I'll be all right.
Hell no,
man.
With Fresh and Fit and Brittany Renner, I'll be all right then.
Just make sure you don't ask her nothing crazy, because in the interest of what's the dude named DJ Academics' relationship.
Oh yeah, you know, like I said, I got a biracial daughter-in-law that looks just like her. So,
and I want to say shout out to the nameless protagonist, man. I ain't seen or heard from you in a minute. I know you're doing videos. I done seen a few of those, but you ain't been around here, man. What?
You be doing research, man.
I gotta, man. You gotta holler at me, nameless, man. I gotta have you on the show, bro.
Yeah, you do.
I gotta have you on the show, bro. If you would be willing.
But yeah, just know that we've been watching those videos, man. We've been watching. We've been watching those videos. I mean, you probably seen my comments that I left under one, but we've been watching those videos, man. And it's, like I said, I'll reserve my commentary for that.
I'm curious to see what people think about the commentary, because I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but I guess it's turned out to be. So I guess it's going to be an ongoing discussion. I wish he would just come on a panel and hash it out, but
he's not going to do that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
So Sandog, man, I want to leave you some opportunity to give some comments and wrap this up, but definitely I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna take you to task on your commitment to coming by and being a regular, and us going through that list and showing the achievements of resistance and the philosophy of resistance of black men in these here United States and in the Americas in general, and maybe even elsewhere. I'm gonna take you to task, but Sandog, drop some gems on us before you go.
And I mean, Gigi, it's a done deal. But the thing is that for us, right? One of the problems that African American men have is you're not in an environment where you're taught to love yourself, right? To love yourself or to have self-love.
Say that again, man. Say that again.
So everything for most black men, everything in their lives is about kind of like what you could do for other people and around you.
Right.
So where Sandog was fortunate was I had a father that sat me down and looked me in the eyes and said, son, the first law of nature is self-preservation.
Right.
If you can't help yourself, you can't help anybody else. Right. And so for me, again, when BGS talked about culture, right? So I became everything that I am today because of the culture that I was raised in. So my father early had a direct hand in my education. And you guys heard me say this before in the Manosphere. My father bought me an Encyclopedia Britannica set. I think I was 6 years old, right? And told my mother, make him read everything from A to Z. Then after that, the first set of books my father ever bought me was Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, The Conspiracy to Destroy Young Black Boys. And then I had subscriptions to Popular Science and Popular Mechanics. And so again, so what some people tend to forget is that baseline, remove race, that baseline of class and where you start from, puts you on a completely different trajectory than other people. And so it's not, and so again, and so when you're living on narrative, right, from point A to B is not necessarily again, what you think it is. And another thing that for black men that you have to do is that we have to start celebrating each other no matter what the ideologies are or what our women or so-called community approves of. So like for me, I was sitting back looking at Kamala Harris and then the last Supreme Court nomination. And both of these women, it doesn't bother me. Again, both of these women are married to white men. But I remember when Clarence Thomas was brought to the Supreme Court, and he was torn from head to toe, right? And so again, I believe, again, I believe, or it would be in our best interest, right, to start celebrating each other and our successes and everything else, again, regardless of what our ideologies are. So again, somebody with the accomplishments of Dr. Ben Carson should not be dismissed by us because there are those of us who may share a different political stance or outlook, right? When you look at guys like Clarence Thomas or Dr. Ben Carson, again, these were men who had to claw their way up to get to where they are. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we're all going to have different philosophies. We're all going to, we're all going to have different ideas, but we're going to have to learn how to embrace and elevate each other. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, brother. And truth be told, man, conservative brothers are not as uncommon as you might think nowadays.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, but saying, dog, thank you for coming by, dog. Holler at me later, man. I'm about to phase you out and then get to Devin and let him speak, and then I'm about to run around the horn and we up out this bitch.
Done. Rue.
Dog. Devin, go ahead and kick the science and turn that mic down a little bit, bro.
Yeah, is this good now? Is it better?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
man. Thanks for having me on, man. I mean, I'm not gonna try to out profound a lot of what I heard said tonight, man. The brothers all had some really good points. Marcus Aurelius, man. You are keeping it 100. I was stationed overseas, man. I was stationed in Spain, when I was 19 years old. So I really came of age as a sexual being in a SYSBM setting, by default. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I totally understand from having understood how I am viewed as a Black American man in Europe, which is very different than the way we're viewed here, and as well as many different parts of the world. I mean, since being stationed overseas, I've been to over 50 countries in my own business. And yeah, I want to see brothers, form families and establish generational wealth. And, I don't mind, who you marry. I don't think, who you decide to partner with on a sexual basis should be something that is even remotely tied to your politic. I mean, your politic is something that you're born with. You're born in your body as a Black man. You're going to always stand for the race. You're going to always stand for the people. And if anybody really loves you, if a woman really loves you, she's going to stand for us too. Mm-hmm. And, so, I mean, I can definitely appreciate the depth, and most importantly, GG, man, I appreciate the fact that we got a format that we can intelligently differ with each other, and we can intelligently share differing opinions respectfully.
For sure. But thank you for coming through, man, and spitting kicking the knowledge with me, man. Appreciate you, bro. I'm gonna phase you out, man.
Thank
all
you,
right, man. Appreciate you. All right, keep it, man. Marcus Aurelius, my brother. Spit some game to us real quick, man, and fade us on out.
No doubt. I'm gonna have to differ with Sandog in terms of aligning yourself with people who have differences. My thing is, you can have a difference of opinion of strategy to reach the same objective, but you can't have difference of objective. If we're not fighting for the same outcome, then no, I can't align with you. That's like the coon or the simp, you overlooking what he's after and aligning with him. It doesn't work that way. You understand what I'm saying? If you're chasing the same thing, the only thing you should differ on is how to get there.
I feel you. I understand. Like, I mean, you can't fight next to a motherfucker if he wants to. If you the British and they the French, and this motherfucker is fighting, you know, like double spy, double agent or some shit. He got to get his head cut off. I understand that. But if they are all,
so he says that's not what he meant. But I hear you, bro.
Yeah.
But,
so if so basically what I'm saying is. And I'm gonna phase you out, Marcus. But thank you for coming through, man. Because I'm getting through this shit. I'm about to be done.
I have more to say, but all right.
Go ahead and say it. Finish your thoughts.
He can say it tomorrow night, man. He gonna have plenty to say.
I mean, I wasn't gonna speak on your issue now. I'm saying that for tomorrow night. But all I'm basically saying is he like, get this motherfucker out of here. Oh, you ain't gotta
go home.
I understand, man. Dance on my stage, man. Then what is this? As far as what is patriarchy, man? At the end of the day, man, listen. As much as you might hear complaining and bitching and moaning from any ethnicity of women, they want patriarchy. Patriarchy is our obligation to protect, provide, and all this other nice shit that they're enjoying in this first world economy that they're living in right now.
They want the fruits of it, but they don't want the structure of it.
They don't. Not only do they not want the structure, they don't want their obligation to it, and they don't want don't want to be limited by it. With their actions and their autonomy and their freedom. They don't. They want us to operate within the framework of it, but they don't want to.
Yes, that's
period. And tomorrow, the arrogance of pussy. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. That's what we're gonna be talking about tomorrow. The arrogance.
All right, Marcus, man. Thank you for coming through my news.
You still ain't shit, but it's all right.
No doubt. No doubt.
Thank you for coming through, man. Appreciate you, bro. Always, man. You're always welcome here, man.
No
always. Doubt. Hey, BG, man. Black Gnostic, man.
All right.
Talk to me, man. You kind of called for this discussion to begin with.
I did. And I think you were the person that actually to set it off, but we still need a term about what you have to sit down and think about what this is that we're experiencing, because I argue with Dr. Curry, with Dr. Johnson, and a whole bunch of other folks about this being a patriarchy. And the thing is that when I look at it historically, it's not. And that, I said the best person actually kind of figure this thing out, that kind of thinks outside the box, is probably you. What is this that we're experiencing? Can you define it? Can you put a name to it? Because we haven't put a name to it.
I'll try.
All right.
I'll try.
Yeah, you're the best person for it.
I'll try, my brother. I'm still dealing with the rigors and the craziness of this shit my damn self, but I will try, my brother. I will try.
Yeah, we getting caught up. We all caught up in this madness, especially black men.
Boy, it's a hard knocks life for us, boy. We don't get treated, we get tricked. We don't get kisses, we get kicked. Motherfuckers go buy large mansions and get Cadillac deals and get motherfucking Goldman Sachs funding and shit. And then recently I saw the queens of the fucking YouTube. The flower queens or some shit. Oh,
Lord. Yeah. The Fox queens, yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I sent the email out, and it's basically
about
email
that.
YouTube promoting black women that need their flowers and shit like that. Like, I'm like, huh? Yeah, that shit fucked me up. Like, how many black men get promoted like in clusters for their channels or whatever?
And right after our good brother gives up the ghost, man, here they come up with this shit. It can't be a coincidence,
man.
Can't be a coincidence,
man.
You know what? If they're willing to lift the shadow ban off of our content, I might do it.
Man.
If they stop shadow banning black male content, I might send them a letter. If y'all stop shadow banning our content, we'll give you your flowers. That's a fair trade.
Man, I'll show you. Hold on, before I leave, I'm gonna show people the email, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna show people this email. I'm like, when did we get shit like that? Like, what in the fuck?
Like what's it saying? Look at the camera. The nerve.
I saw it. I was like, "Are you serious, man?" I straight up saw it, man. I was like, "Oh my god." Hold on, man. I can't find it right this second, man. I know it's here though, because I know several people responded to it.
Oh yeah.
Hold on, me. There we go. Here we are, right here. This shit fucked me. I saw it. I said, "Are you serious, bro?" Hold on, man.
At first, I thought it was a joke. And I started reading this. This is serious. Okay.
So, is it on the screen yet?
Not yet. There he goes. Yeah. Go ahead and enlarge yourself.
I'm gonna enlarge this joint. So, I got this. Celebrate Black women creators with #clown and glory. This spring, Black women creators are in full bloom. Hello, creators. Inspired by spring, a season for renewal and reaping the fruits of our labor, we launched Crown and Glory in April to celebrate Black women creators who have been hard at work planting seeds to build a better world for themselves and the next generation. As part of this movement, we gave creators Steph and Tasha, Brooke Ashley from the Beverly Halls, Jazzy Guns, Felicia A. Johnson, Aaliyah Simone, and their truly talented beauty, their well-deserved flowers. By celebrating their stories, their crowns, and their contributions to culture on our YouTube social channels. And here are the women. I don't know any of them. I don't know their content, so I'm not going to knock them because I don't know them. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I can't say that I don't support them or anything. I just know I ain't seen where the crowns of glory for the brothers. I ain't seen nothing like that. But, it's just a promotion of black. This is black girl magic to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So you can join this. It's a hard promotion of their content. This is not shadow banning. This is open support.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Like, amp them up. It ain't, well, we're going to look at your channels and determine whether or not it meets our guidelines and AdSense, or advertisers' guidelines. No, it's like full tilt, like support these ladies. Okay? You can join the celebration by using #Crown and Glory to give your favorite Black women creators their flowers, then discover what motivates these 7 creators to push the culture forward. Yep. We're just getting started. YouTube is heading back to VidCon this summer with a variety of you can't miss moments in Anaheim, California, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, damn. I mean, I'm not lamenting their, success or their promotion, but I'm like, damn, if they getting promoted, can we at least get some fucking form of support?
My own philosophy. The name of my new book is Free Women, Free Men. Sex differences are.
Well, the thing is that if they would just give us a level playing field, then that would be enough. Well, that's all Black men really ask for, man, a fair shot. We always, like Michael Jackson said in The Wiz, right? I was telling that to my grandson. You can't win, you can't get even, and you can't get out of the game. So that's what Black men life is all about. With that scarecrow, on that stick, man. Yeah, singing that song with Black females as crows around us.
So in other words, what that's going to be is, like, let's make them one of the next big things to have 1.5 million followers. And
since the Kevin Samuels won't be a man, it'll be a woman.
Hey, it is what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Hey, if that's how they want to make their bread, but I know they ain't turned Kevin down. I know when he started blowing up like that, they was all supporting. They were supporting that algorithm.
Yeah, they were supporting that money, man.
Yeah, because I know they get a cutoff every dollar cent. You know what I'm saying?
Cent. Yep. Every little piece of AdSense, every commercial. Yep.
So. But anyway, man, thank you, BGS, for coming by and spending so much of your time, because it's like you spent 4 hours with me, man. That's a long. I
don't get a chance to talk to you that much, GG. So it was, like I said, I always learn something. So every time I hear you, man, I have to sit back and take notes.
Well, hey, man, thank you for the accolade, my brother, and the same here, man. You teach me a lot as well, man. So
yeah, man, we gonna get that documentary done, man. By hook or by crook.
By hook or crook, baby. And thank you for subscribing, my man, Nick and Lucian. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
So anyway, man.
Y'all hit that join button too, y'all. So
yeah, join the channel, man. Hit subscribe, man. Become a member. You know what I'm saying? Support the channel, man. So anyway, man, thank you guys for coming by, man. I'm about to close this one out.
All right. Go warm up the chicken, man.
You know it, because I am hungry in the belly, man.
All right, Doc.
All right, man. Peace out.
Peace out.